Keltec is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade.
Like that. Let's see. Keep scrolling down. That one right there with the hog. I make a stabby called the self stabby of all G10, and so that's just me cutting a hog out with the G10. So there's no metal; it's just a G10 knife.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm just cutting the back straps out. I carried them over. That's just G10, yeah. So I carried it over. We carried them overseas because overseas you have a lot of hotels, restaurants, theme parks where they have metal detectors, and so we could just carry those and still have some sort of blade that was completely undetectable by metal detectors.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool as shit. I like that.
And then maybe like see where that looks like piss in a bucket.
This one.
Yeah. Go ahead and click on that. This is a Damascus blade. It's about 120 layers of steel compressed together. And then when you dip it in the ferric affects the high carbon. There's two different types of steel, and one has a lot of nickel in it. So the ferric won't darken the high nickel steel, which is called 15N20. And so once you leave it in there for just a few seconds, I mean, really, you normally leave it in for about 10 minutes, but
yeah,
I don't think I did it 10 minutes on this one, thank goodness. And then when you can start to see now the colors coming out on the Damascus.
Yeah. And the patterns.
Yeah. So
that's
how
the
you
two
get
different metals that you have there, so you can tell. So the blade's got to be a different metal than the back, right?
So actually, what that
we'll talk about that on the show. Let's save it for the show. Okay. These are all good questions I'm going to be asking you. All right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I watched Forged in Fire, but
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. All right, you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, lead heads. Welcome back to another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. I am your host with the most, Lefty, and I have the most for you this episode, and we're going to get into that. But in case you haven't done it yet, make sure you go back to our previous episodes of the Talking Lead podcast, because we have 10 years of leaducation for you listeners and your viewers now, because we are videoing our podcast and we make it available on YouTube, but I'm trying to get away from YouTube and get everything over to Rumble. So we are on Rumble. Make sure you go and follow us at Rumble. It appears to be so far a unbiased, free 1A speech platform. So I haven't had anything blocked or flagged or choked down as far as I can tell. But I need more of you listeners to go and subscribe, follow us on Rumble. And the more that I see that you guys are doing that, the more content I'm going to start moving over there. But I'm trying to get all the new stuff going forward moved over there. So please go give us a big O follow, a big subscribe over there on Rumble. And today, if you've been watching our Instagram post or social media post, you know that we're going to be talking knives and knife making. And our special guest joining us today, Leadheads, is Jerod Johnson with STA Blades. Jerod, welcome in.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited.
Yes, sir. We're glad to have you on. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been trying to get organized, and I think I've got the format and the platform that I want to use now. And we're going to kick it off with you. I want to do at least a monthly segment dealing with knives and blades and stabby things. So
right, I like it.
So you're going to be my test episode. We'll see how the Leadheads enjoy this, the feedback that we get from it. But I know they're going to love it because they've been asking for something like this for a while. So Jerod, I'm pleased to have you and honored to have you on.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way. I'm excited. This is going to be great.
Yeah, we're going to have a really good time. So tell our Leadheads a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background. I know you're there's no former Marine. You're a Marine. just retired. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah. So I grew up in Northern California, and I wanted to get out of California because I was really into guns and everything growing up. And so I joined the Marine Corps, and I got stationed in Southern California for about 8.5 years. So it didn't work out that great for me as far as getting out of California, but I got into some cooler guns and stuff at least. So that was good for me. Kept me out of jail and everything too. So
Right.
I spent a little over 8 years in the Marine Corps. Did a couple deployments overseas, and had just a great time, which I think kind of shaped me for everything that I was going to go into later in life. So I knew I always wanted to be a police officer. My father's a police officer. My brother's a police officer, and it just didn't happen for me at that time. So I went into a little bit different role of sales into the firearms industry. I went and worked for a rep group that represented Leupold and Stevens.
Yeah.
So I ran their military law enforcement division for the Western states for about 5 years. Bounced around in the firearms industry, kind of like everybody else does. I worked for HK, Patriot Ordnance Factory, and then I went into security contracting overseas, doing some diplomatic security services, anti-piracy, and kind of executive protection type gigs. All while kind of maintaining my training group, which was STA Training Group. And I think it was the end of 2019, I had just moved to Texas from Phoenix, and COVID hit. I had set up a great range, 16,000 acre ranch, the Richards Ranch in Jacksboro, Texas. I had long range. We had all these shooting bays. It was a great thing that was going, and COVID hit and completely wiped out all the travel. Everybody had to go in, stay inside, and it just became impossible to do training. So for about that first year, I went with basically no work, having just moved to Texas. So I just got this wild idea at the end of 2020. I took a knife making class and a bladesmithing class with a gentleman named Chuck Stone at Masters Forge here in Texas. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to try this knife thing and see what happens. Yeah. And it has worked out pretty good. I've been, 2.5 years into it. So I'm definitely new to the knife making, but I did it with the whole paint yourself in a corner approach of, I had no choice. So I had to make it work.
So it's kind of a thing to tide you over, give you something to do during the COVID. I put my finger quotes up, right. the big COVID right. area. It's amazing how all that's coming out to be everything that we thought it was in the beginning, a big farce, a big hoax, a big money maker for the big pharma and the government.
Yeah. Look over here while I do this over here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do what you're told. But that's exactly. Cool that, you found a kind of a hobby, something to tide you over, something to do. Cause I think everybody was doing that. I think everybody, was like, because they're used to, being busy and active, and you can't do what you normally do. Then what do? You substitute it with something else, especially people who don't like to be idle, like myself.
Attention business owners. Are you ready to take your marketing game to the next level? Look no further than Black Tie Digital Marketing, the firearm-friendly, full-service agency that delivers results. We've worked with industry giants like Keltec, Spikes Tactical, and Armalite, and we even designed the kick-ass new logo at Talkin' Lead. At Black Tie, we blend creativity and data-driven strategies to ensure your message hits the mark every time. From high-end custom websites, graphic design, to inbound marketing campaigns, and everything in between, we've got you covered. Your success is our priority. Join the ranks of the industry's top players and give your business the boost it deserves. Experience the power of Black Tie today. Visit blacktieDigital.com or call 1-800-316-8030 to schedule your free consultation. That's Black Tie Digital Marketing, where firepower meets marketing power. Black Tie Digital Marketing is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade.
We're going to talk about you, and we're going to talk more about the knife making process. I know you've been doing it for 2 years now. We've got a lot of listeners that have, been wanting to get into it. I myself have been very curious about knife making and wanted to kind of get into it myself as well. So
Sure.
we're gonna pick your brain, talk about your methods, your techniques, your styles, your influences. But before we do that, we got to thank the people that make this show possible each and every week for you lead heads. Mission First Tactical, our good buddies over at Mission First Tactical. They have a string of new products out that you may or may not be familiar with yet. They've got a new line of bags out that are kind of the gray man bag, and you go check those out on their website. They've got two different sizes right now that they've got, but they're absolutely cool. They're sleek. They don't scream of tactical. So go check them out at missionfirsttactical.com. You're going to use the code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 20% off those new bags. You're going to get 20% off their holsters that they have. And then they've got the AR accessories and their magazines. So if you're building a new AR, which I'm getting ready to build 2 new ARs myself personally, there's been smoking deals on AR parts, and I haven't seen prices any lower than this in 10 years, man. I mean, you can go get an AR now, a complete AR for under $500. Sometimes, I think I've seen one for $400. I think Primary Arms had one for like under $300 during a sale that they had. But I enjoy building my ARs myself, so I don't really have. I've got several pistol style ARs, but I don't have like a really, really short one under 10.5 inches. So I want to build one, that's like 7, 8 inches, something like that. And I haven't decided if I'm going to go 300 blackout or if I'm just going to do a regular 5.56. What do you recommend?
I stick with 5.56 just because I have so much of the ammunition, so many different types of AR-15s already.
Yeah.
And, you look at some of these ammo manufacturers that are specifically making ammunition that has good terminal effects via short-barreled rifles.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it, if you want to do cycling subsonic short-barreled stuff, then 300 blackout's definitely the way to go. But
I love the 300 blackout round, and I've got several 300 blackouts in my arsenal already, and I've got several 5.56s as well. I've got a 6.8 Grendel, but that's more of a long range type gun. So maybe my second one, I might do another 6.5 Grendel.
Now that's my flavor right there. I have tons of Grendels, and I have the 11.5. The Grendel was originally designed for like about a 12.5 inch barrel anyways, when Bill Alexander kind of came up with that concept. And I have several 11.5 inch and 18 inch, and they're just that's the one thing on the ranch that I'm at where one and done. You don't have to shoot them twice. It's extremely good terminal ballistics.
Yeah. It's a good run. I haven't hunted with it yet, but I've got LEO, the LEO takedown system. I don't know if you're familiar with those or not, but it's just a quick barrel swap system. So I've got it set up for the 6.5 Grendel, the 5.56, and the 300 blackout.
Nice.
So that's what that one. I don't know if you can see what I'm pointing at or not, but that's the one I've got set up right there.
Nice
for that. But speaking of ballistics, Defiant Munitions, you guys want a discount on some awesome high quality ammunition, anything from the 380 all the way up to they're doing the 4570 for the lever actions. They've got 300 blackout, 5.56. Of course, you got to check them because sometimes they sell out of a lot of that stuff, but you can go Defiant Munitions, use the code all caps LEADHEAD, get 10% off Defiant Munitions for that ammo. And then, of course, our good buddies at Kel-Tec. I'm going to be going down there hopefully in a couple of weeks. I've got a trip planned to go down there and get that big giveaway that I've been teasing you guys with in order and together. And hopefully we'll kick that off in the next couple of months. We're going to go down there and get everything straightened out for that. I'm going to do a tour of their factory. So I'm going to bring you guys along with that. I'm going to have some video. We might do some live, and then we're going to record the show from Cocoa Beach, baby. I'm looking forward to
Nice.
that. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So make sure you go check them out, Kel-Tec. Check out their website. They just sponsored that big concert in Alabama, Rockfest, I think it was called. Rockfest. I don't know. I went down there, and I don't care anything about concerts, Jerod. I like hanging out with my buddies and having a good time. And
Sure.
they had a booth set up. We went down there, gave away, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of hats, and they had these things called cooling towels, and because it was hot as blazes down there, and we had these soaking in ice water and handing them out. And they gave out everything free. They had stickers, they had patches. I mean, they had to have given out over 1,000 hats over. It was like a 3-day concert. So I went down there one day, and I mean, it was a blast. We had a good time just going and throwing out hats and meeting people. And
yeah, absolutely.
It was Chris Stapleton was like the main guy, and he wanted a couple of the cases of the hats and the towels because he wanted to throw them out from the stage during the concert. So we hooked him up with several of the hats and whatnot. So if any of you listeners were there, and I didn't see you, or maybe we got some new listeners that are listening now because I did meet you down there. It was a great time, and I appreciate Kel-Tec for inviting me down for that. It was a really good time, but I didn't really watch any of the concerts. I heard they were good, but I was up by the stage, but I wasn't watching.
Well, you don't need to watch it. It's music.
It's music. You listen to it. Yeah. That's what I never understood. That's what I never understood is why do you go to a concert? It's music. You listen to it. You can listen to it anytime you want, but I don't know. I just never got into concerts.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But go to their website, go to Kel-Tec, and use the code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 15% off any of their products in their pro shop. Of course, firearms aren't included in that. But any of their hats, their shirts, their accessories for the firearms that they do make, those are included. So if you got a Sub 2000, you got a RDB, any of the accessories that they have for those, the KSG shotgun, all that's included in that discount code. So, all right, Greg. Now, and I prepared you for this, and Leadheads, I want to hear from you too on this too. But it's time for the Planes and Trains, where we take care of some jack wagons and we honor some heroes. So, Gunny, bring that train in.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jack Wagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, the train has stationed, and I've got, I don't know if it's a jack wagon or not, but it's something that I just learned of. So I'm going to go first, Greg, if you don't mind. Normally I default to our guest, but I'm going to go ahead and
You got to stop calling me Greg, though.
did I call you Greg? Jerod. Where did Greg come from?
Right, because I just sent you that email on Greg Coker.
That's what it was. That's exactly what it was. Jerod is our guest today with STA Blades. Jerod, I've got this, I was doing some reading today, and this thing came up about incandescent light bulbs. And I didn't know that there was this big movement, or there's actually a law now that incandescent light bulbs can't be sold or manufactured anymore in the United States.
Interesting.
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been a thing for a while, I think since 2014 or I don't know, maybe even before then. But supposedly that the deadline has come and they can't manufacture, they can't make them or sell them anymore. Now, if stores have them in stock, they can still sell those, and you can buy them. And it's not illegal for you to use them in your house. They're not going to come kick down your door, from what I understand, because you're using.
So nice of them.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it so nice? But it just reminded me of the things that they're trying to do with firearms.
Sure.
They say they tell you one thing, but then they do another. But supposedly the incandescent light bulbs are contributing to the global warming, the climate. They call it climate change now.
Of course.
Instead of global warming, they've changed their name on it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how the light bulb is causing the global warming or the climate change.
Well, I don't think anybody understands what's causing global warming, but I do. LED light bulbs.
I understand.
You do?
Yeah. It's called the sun.
The sun.
It's called the sun, exactly. And we're getting closer to the sun every second.
Yeah. As far as the LED light bulbs go, I remember when LEDs came out, they were supposed to be that 10-year use, like they last forever. Now when I buy an LED light bulb, it seems like I'm changing them out faster than I was the incandescent.
So
it's all a scam.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with it's money. It all has to do with money. Is that these politicians have bought money into these companies that produce and manufacture the parts and the pieces and the components, and it's lining their pockets. But I mean, I do see that they don't burn as hot as an incandescent bulb. I get that, so there's less heat put out on them, but at the same time, I don't see how that changes any of our climate. I don't see how that's affecting our climate one way or the other. Maybe in the big process of manufacturing them, I don't know what goes into manufacturing an LED versus what went into manufacturing an incandescent. Maybe there's more that goes into producing these LEDs, which in the long run is going to be worse because it takes more resources, more power to make them and generate them. I don't know. I'm just speaking out of my ass right now, so I'm just throwing up what ifs.
It all makes sense to me.
Kind of scenarios. But I just found out about this today when I was reading through the news, and I was like, what? Like, it's illegal now. It's against the law to make a light bulb, an incandescent light bulb.
Can you imagine being in prison and telling the dude that's what you're in for?
Right, as you're getting pounded from the back. It's like,
jeez.
It's like, dude, it was just a light bulb. But I understand that the newer ones, they use mercury, and I know mercury is not good for us whatsoever. No form or fashion. You know, vaccines. I don't know if they still do it or not, but I know that vaccines, they used to put mercury in vaccines. I think they still do. Maybe not in American, but it was an adjutant. They used it as an adjutant with the vaccine because it gave a greater immunity response from the body. The body it kind of shocked it more into fighting, I guess, the poisons that they're putting in your body with a vaccine, because that's what it is. They're injecting you with whatever the disease is, so your body can build up an immunity to it. But they added the mercury as an adjutant to give it an extra boost or shock for your body to produce more of the white blood cells, I guess, to fight it. And so I can't imagine that mercury in light bulbs is good for us either.
No.
I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of not really a jackwagon, but just more of a things that make you go, kind of deal. And I guarantee you there's some jackwagoneriness behind it. So I'll do more research and try to get you guys some more answers in the future. But that's my jackwagon. So Jerod, not Greg.
Jerod.
What have you got for us today? What's your jackwagon?
So this happened to me about a month ago, maybe. I just, I've been slow to get on a website and all that stuff. So I finally got my website up. I was all super proud. Like, now I'm somebody and my company's somebody. And my friend who's doing my website, we were going to sign up for a merchant account so that I could run credit cards through my website. And the company that was doing it had they had prohibited dangerous weapons. Okay. So we had to call them. They
prohibited the sale of dangerous weapons?
Of dangerous weapons. Okay. So we had to call them, and the lady that answers the phone, I understand she's doing her job. It's probably not her policies, and she's probably very confused. Well, she was very confused because, I said, well, what about like these companies? I make kitchen knives. I make cutlery as well. And she's like, well, that's fine. We can do like a little amendment if you're doing the the kitchen knives. But if you're selling knives of war, we can't do it.
Knives of war?
Knives of war. So my webmaster and I were laughing, and we just kind of looked at each other, and I'm like, okay, kitchen knives are okay, even though they kill 1,000 times more people every year than these quote unquote knives of war. I mean, everybody that, all these murders that take place with kitchen knives.
Yeah.
But they're okay because they're supposed to be used to cut food and not people. So I had to go through a third-party vendor on their site, so they still let me sell the knives. I'm just having to go through a third party to do it.
Right.
It's really
You're doing it through them, but they're subcontracting it out to another company, and you're probably having to pay an up fee to be able to do that. No,
that's the weird thing. It didn't cost me. It's not costing me anything else right now as of yet. But so that Blades in stock page that you're on will be set up once our merchant account goes through. So, but yeah, so I thought coining the new term "knives of war" was kind of a cool. I learned something from her. I didn't realize I made knives. As you can see, those knives right there. I mean, those are just knives of war.
Yeah, those are. I mean, they scream of.
I should charge more for them.
Yeah, of the days of the medieval times. Knives of war.
Yeah.
The claymore, a big
so
claymore.
That was my little upsetting moment that I had with them that I just thought just made zero sense, and it infuriates me when there's a rule that makes no sense. That's worse.
Well, and then they come up with these made up fake terms like knives of war or assault weapons.
Yeah.
To make things scarier. To fit their narrative, I guess.
It's stupid. So
it is completely stupid. Again, another, knives for self-defense.
Right.
Knives of war.
Knives of war. Yeah.
That's redonkulous.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm on Jerod's website now, STA Blades. You guys go to stablades.com as we're doing the interview here. You can check out all the products that Jerod has for sale, what he makes. Have you got an about page? It's on the front page. Scan down.
On the home page. Like I said, you're gonna have to forgive me a little bit. This page is brand new.
Yeah, so here it is. So here's Jerod, his about STA, and he's next to an ostrich.
Yes. That ostrich does not exist anymore, though, as a side note. That ostrich actually attacked me, and it had to get put down. So the good thing is they taste really good.
Was that your pet?
No, that was in the high fence that for the ranch that I'm on.
I got you.
That was one of the animals we had in our high fence.
Okay. So it was a mean SOB, huh?
Yeah, but I came to find out that it was allergic to 6.5 Grendels, so it's nice. Not with us, and he's not with us anymore.
You got some nice boots and a belt out of that?
I haven't yet, but the meat's been pretty good.
Okay. Now that's completely legal. You can
correct
kill an ostrich under the right circumstances, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very cool.
I mean, you can eat anything if you're hungry enough, but
I understand that, but sometimes there's rules and laws against certain things.
Yeah, Texas is, pretty good about all that.
Yeah. I had Ton Jones on a couple episodes ago, and Ton's down there in Texas also. He works for a company called Air Force Air Guns, and he took some veterans out, and they did an air gun hunt on a high fence, and they were shooting Axis and what was that Chinese deer? Something David's.
Pierre David.
Pierre David.
Yeah, we've got some of those in our high fence.
Yeah, he said
that's a big animal to be shooting with an air gun too. I mean, that's no joke.
People hunt water buffalo with
I saw somebody shoot a an eland with one, which is just crazy.
Well, I mean, they have 50 caliber air guns.
Yeah.
So it's no different than shooting with a center fire.
Yeah, exactly.
You still got the projectile. It's going the feet per second it needs to go and does the damage it needs to do.
Exactly.
And they're quiet.
They are. Yeah.
Extremely quiet. So, any heroes? You got any heroes that you want to honor today?
Yeah, I do actually. I know obviously everyone is appreciative and looks up to, our first responders and our military men and women that are serving and we always, of course, hold them in a high regard and everything. But there are some people that do a lot of stuff behind the scenes for these types of people. So a lot of charities out there, a lot of nonprofits that are helping support veterans and things like that. And that is an awesome thing. I like to donate tons of stuff to that every year. But there's a group that I would like to recognize that does things that are for active duty and reserve units. And this company is called AmericanSnipers.org. It is ran by a group of just absolute gentlemen who've been doing this for probably since the beginning of the global war on terror. And what they do is these are people who take no paycheck. They take no percentage. They do all the traveling. Everything is on their own dime. They go to SHOT Show. They set up booths. And
I think I've met those guys.
Okay.
I think I've met them, and I've got a couple of challenge coins that I've
their challenge coins they're known for their challenge coins. They don't hold anything back on how they feel about people that want to do harm to our military. But what these guys do is they get with units that need specific equipment that the military won't or can't purchase for them. So not everybody has discretionary funding, like some of the tier 1 units. People would be shocked if they saw what your basic military sniper platoon is equipped with and what they should be equipped with. And so these units can get a hold of AmericanSnipers.org and they raise funds and they deal with people in the industry. So if a group wants, some sort of optic, a spotting scope or laser rangefinders that they can't get, AmericanSnipers.org will get that for them and send it to the unit and help these guys with, whatever it takes to kill bad guys.
Right.
So with that, what I'm doing right now, you talked about their challenge coins. So what I'm doing right now with Blades for Brothers, which we'll get into a little bit as well, is I'm doing a knife for AmericanSnipers.org. And I'm either going to do a raffle or something. I got to figure it out. Maybe it's something you can help me with.
Sure.
And what I did is I have a blade called my Smatchet. And a Smatchet is kind of a World War II.
I love that
type dagger. And what I did is this is a Sanmai. So it's 3 layers of steel, but I also put in the nickel lining on it. And then what I did was I made this handle and I embedded their challenge coin into the handle. So the AmericanSnipers.org challenge coin.
Nice.
I think this is about 2016.
This
was their challenge coin. And then I also put some, I don't know if you could see it very well. I put some burlap from my ghillie suit that I wore as a sniper on active duty, and I embedded it into the handle. And so I'll be auctioning or raffling this off and then giving them 100% of the proceeds to help their fight with supporting our troops that are actively trying to kill bad guys.
Very cool. And what's that
style
called
I appreciate everything that they do.
What's that blade called again?
It's called a Smatchet.
Smatchet. Is that an actual name or is that something you made up?
It's actual name. So the Smatchet was
type of knife.
Kind of a World War I, World War II era. And then Fairbairn, Rex Applegate and Fairbairn guys, they came out with their version of it, and this is based off of the Fairbairn Smatchet.
Okay.
So it's a double-edged, wide blade, not necessarily a dagger that's made for, with a needle point for piercing. This wound channel, you don't want this in your body, basically.
No, it's a big fat dagger is what that is.
So I'm doing that to help raise funds for them to be able to raise funds for people on active duty, which
that's
I think
awesome,
is a very
man.
unique thing that they're doing. So,
yeah, that's awesome. So as you get it all worked out on how you're going to raise the funds for that, whether it's a raffle or auction or however you do that, let me know. I'll make sure we'll let the Leadheads know, and
awesome.
They can get. I'm sure I'll probably put a bid on that too. That thing's awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's great. So yeah, those are my heroes that I want to give a little shout out to, because they do a lot of stuff for nothing, and most of the time they're paying out of pocket to even do stuff. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure I've met them a couple of times, either at SHOT Show or NRA or somewhere. I know I've run into them and talked to them a couple of times, because I do have a couple of their challenge coins. I've got one that's got
the skeleton, the skull
with the bullet hole in it. Yeah.
And it says "Face shoot the fuckers."
I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I'll go get it in a minute, and I'll.
They're a good organization. I've been doing stuff with them for a long, long time.
So what's their names again? American Sniper.
AmericanSnipers.org.
.org. Okay. So Leadheads, go check them out. AmericanSnipers.org.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you, guys.
So my hero is kind of steering away from that a little bit. And I don't know that he's really a hero, but I just like it because he bucks the system. And he gives a big fuck you to the media and people who don't go along with his way of thinking or thoughts. But Elon Musk, he just changed Twitter. He did away with Twitter. It's X now. It's called X. Just the big old letter X. Which it's black and it's dark, and it's not this little happy tweeter bird, that Twitter was all about before, about chirp, 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 chirp. Because that's all Twitter is a bunch of nonsensical chirping going on. And I'm sure it will continue to do that. But I can't wait to see the fallout of all the people bitching and moaning because he changed it to X, and protests that are going to come from that, and all the turmoil that he's going to create. Absolutely love that.
No, I think it's great when a guy does something that's very against the grain to a lot of people for reasons that he doesn't have to. That dude doesn't have to do anything in life whatsoever but collect money.
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't collect money, he's got probably more stockpiled up in assets and everything else. He doesn't have to do it. It's like, to me, he's a true entertainer. It's entertaining what he's doing.
Well, he's an innovator also.
Absolutely.
He's innovating the social media world. And
which it needs.
It does. It needs a kick in the ass. And I mean, I don't know that he's going to change anything as far as what Twitter is. And I think they still are choking free speech down. I don't think they've really lifted any of their free speech bans that they had in the past, even though they've talked a big game. I don't know how much of that has actually changed. But I know Rumble, you can go to Rumble, follow us on Rumble, and you can free speech there all you want. As long as you're not, you doing illegal shit.
That's right.
Don't do illegal shit and you'll be fine. So that's my hero. Just want to throw Elon Musk out there.
I was hoping you were going to say like DB Cooper or somebody, like.
I don't know that DB Cooper's a hero. I think DB Cooper's a slime bag. I think he's a jerk. I think he's a jackwagon for putting people's lives in danger like he did.
I agree. I like that nobody got hurt, and I appreciate.
I think he was just
lucky. I appreciate more just the way he did some ballsy stuff that was, and the whole unknown about it.
Yeah,
is what's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, well, I think it's unknown because he died and buried him, and there's no evidence.
Yeah.
But no,
Well,
the whole
maybe some,
mystery. Don't get me. I love conspiracy theories and all that, and for that, I really have enjoyed him for all the entertainment that he has given me over these years, and all the stories that people have about him. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story whatsoever. But I think he's been over romanticized for what he did.
Sure. But if he would have got caught, he wouldn't have been over romanticized. The whole point is that he's not here. So
yeah,
that's the or maybe something like Gary Plosh or Ploshe, the guy that was talking on the telephone when the guy that molested his kid walked by in the airport and he turned around and shot him in the ear.
Oh no, I don't
you know that story?
Don't know that.
No, you don't. Oh man,
no, tell it.
This kid got molested by like his karate coach or his karate teacher, and who's like a 25-year-old guy or whatever. And there's some famous pictures, and the dad found out where the marshals were taking him through the airport, and so he was talking on the phone to his buddy, and as the guy walked by, he just turned around and put a revolver in his ear and pulled the trigger. So
yes, I do.
The hero list.
I know what you're talking about there, and that guy is a fucking hero.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Sure.
Because
I almost thought about naming a knife after him because he passed away in like the early 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
Because all my knives are named after friends or family and things like that, and so I was like, man, I should do like a GP, stabby.
Yeah, and he had
to
go to jail for that too. Wasn't he?
I don't think. I don't.
Did he not go to jail?
I don't know, man. It was kind of one of those. Man, I don't think anybody wanted to touch it too much. He might have done a little bit of time, but he definitely didn't go to jail for like premeditated.
I saw that
murder.
video like a couple of months ago. I know exactly what you're talking about now, and I saw the video, or maybe it was a replay of it. I don't know what it was, but yeah, he was on the phone, faking like he was talking on the phone. Dude was walking by all schmug.
Yep.
The child
and I love it
dude.
because on my Facebook page, every Father's Day, that's the picture that my friends put up is him talking on the phone while that guy's walking by, and it's like, happy Father's Day to all the real fathers that go out of their way.
That's what it was. It was some sort of social media post I saw, and then I did some research on it, and I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that dude's a hero. And he gets a ride on Lead Force 1.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. So we have the jack wagon train that all the jack wagons go on, and sometimes they get run over by, but then our heroes get a ride on our nice plush Air Force One. Lead Force One. It's like Air Force One, but it's Lead Force One.
Right.
It's got nice plush Corinthian leather seats. It's got a full bar. It's got the stewardesses. Yeah. Do they call them flight attendants now? I'm sorry.
Flight attendants.
Of the whatever persuasion that they would like. If it's a female hero, they get what they. We take care of our heroes. All right, so that does it for the Planes and Trains segment. If you leadheads have nominations that you want to send in, we'll read them on air. Email them to me, talkingled@gmail.com, and I will get those to you. Don't shoot them to me on social media through the DMs or anything like that, because I won't ever see them. And if I do, it won't be in time. So you can't blame me for not reading it if you do it that way. Hey there, Leadhead Brigade. Lefty here with some important news for you. Forecasters from the University of Arizona warn that 2023 will be a very active hurricane season, and they're asking people to get prepared. They're expecting the number of major hurricanes this year to be similar to 2017, which saw the extremely intense and damaging hurricanes that we all heard about, Harvey, Irma, and that nasty old Maria. How bad can it get? Well, when Hurricane Ida hit the Gulf Coast, it destroyed countless homes and left many without access to food, clean water. Millions lost power. Most didn't have power for weeks. The floods that followed the hurricane washed out the roads, made it impossible for grocery stores to restock their shelves. Families were left hungry and desperate, waiting for help that was slow to arrive. But what if you didn't have to be reliant on the government, FEMA, your neighbor, grocery stores during these crises? The answer is simple. Be prepared with emergency food kits from 4 Patriots. Their long-lasting, delicious food options are specifically designed to provide you and your loved ones with the sustenance you need when you need it the most. 4 Patriots survival food kits are hand-packed in the USA. They last 25 years. They come packed inside covert storage totes. They include a wide variety of delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners. They've even got some snacks that are tasty. And they're backed by thousands of 5-star customer reviews. Just go check out their website, 4patriots.com, and read them for yourself. 4Patriots Survival Food is not just for natural disasters, because in today's world of uncertain supply chains and unpredictable emergencies, it's more important than ever to have a backup plan. Whether it's a temporary power outage, a winter blizzard, or rising food costs, which we're all feeling that these days, right? You can rest easy knowing that you have a reliable source of food to see you through it. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use this exclusive code, LEADHEAD, all caps, LEADHEAD, one word, to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, not just their food kits. So go check them out, 4patriots.com. Use the code LEADHEAD to get 10% off your first purchase of 4Patriots Survival Food. That's 4patriots.com, guys. Use the code LEADHEAD and get that 10% off. And speaking of, I made a post for questions for not Greg, but Jerod.
I'm excited about some of these questions. I saw some.
We got some good questions, and we're going to go over those.
Real good questions.
But we want to first find out more about how you got into this knife making. Started off probably as a hobby, but now it's your business. You're making good living at it, and it came from the COVID. But I mean, you probably had an affinity, or you'd always thought about it prior to that. So what really got you hooked on knives in general? Because I love owning knives. I love buying knives and collecting them, and carrying them, showing them off.
I wish I didn't like knives, to be totally honest, because I kind of feel like I'm that heroin dealer that's addicted to his product. So I would be much better. Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
I'll tell you about this one a little bit later.
That's a nice one. I've always liked knives. I've always carried knives. Obviously, in the military, I carried my K-bar for the first couple of years, and then, during my time in the Marine Corps at Camp Pendleton, there was at the time, there was a little knife making company in Oceanside called Strider Knives. And so I was always in with Dwayne and Mick, and, I bought one of their BTs, which I think stands for Big Tonto. And all the guys in my units, we all had Striders. It was all Strider knives. And then they exploded into this big company and filled so many gaps and did all of that. And that was my knife experience. It was like K-bars and Striders. Like, I didn't really have, I wasn't a collector. I didn't know I've heard of like Randall and stuff like that. But, the K-bar and the Strider being the higher end was kind of the one where, like, yeah, it was just priced enough to where a military guy could afford it.
Yeah.
But when you got it, it was like, man, I feel like I'm freaking somebody now.
Did you like that a lot better than your K-bar?
Yeah. The K-bars are good, but the K-bars are, to me, just too big. So
did you ever break a K-bar?
I've never broken one. But, like the ones we got issued to us were just dog shit. Like, you could not keep them sharp. The knives were protruding through the leather scabbard at the bottom. They were just really old.
Yeah.
Whereas the Striders,
they were probably rushed made because of the quantity, and they had this batch and they knew it was going to.
Well, yeah, and they're probably 40 years old.
Yeah.
When you have a blade that can survive 40 years of being issued to a 20-year-old for 40 years, it's a good knife.
So you have to give your K-bar back?
Well, so like depending on what unit you were with or what weapon system you carried, you could be issued a K-bar.
Yeah.
But you could buy your own at the PX, and that's what most people did, because at least if you bought your own, it was sharp,
Yeah.
In the 90s is when Ontario or whoever makes the K-bar or K-Bar, I guess now as a company.
Yeah.
They were just coming out with like the new sexier versions with like the third of the blade being serrated and a Kydex sheath. So Marines were running out to buy those as well. But, I carried one for a couple of years. I mean, is it a cool knife? Yeah, it's a cool knife. It just stayed stagnant with.
I'm just curious as to the quality and the durability of, because you saw action, you went through some pretty rough areas, and I'm just curious as far as the whole makeup of the K-Bar knife itself, the handle, the pommel, right, the blade, all that, how well they actually hold up.
They're not bad. I mean, the thing with the K-Bar is you have like on a lot of the fighting knives out there, like this one right here. Mm-hmm. This is my MV fighter. And this is what's called a full tang knife. So it basically has 2 slabs of G10 on each side. And as you can see, the blade runs all the way down, and it's about, it's over an inch wide. So that gives you a lot of strength. So on the K-Bar is what's called a hidden tang knife. And so the tang goes down into the handle, but the handle completely encapsulates the tang. So in order to do that, you have to make the tang a lot thinner here, and it kind of goes down and sometimes kind of rat tails.
It's not as sturdy.
So when you talk about strength, if I'm using that as like a pry tool, it's not going to be as strong as like a full tang knife, most likely. So it's not made for it's not the most indestructible gun. I mean, it's $100 knife. Yeah. It's $100,
Would it still be a K-Bar if they made a full tang out of it?
Yeah, I think
does that change it? Does that change
the K-Bar to me kind of reflects the blade profile. Like the blade profile of the K-Bar is a great fighting knife profile, I think.
Right.
And
that's what its general purpose was, is more for fighting, right?
Yeah, I mean it was issued to the BAR gunners and things like that, and it was kind of just a fighting knife that was made for hand-to-hand combat back in the days when the military did a lot of that stuff in jungles or things like that. But it's a good knife. I wouldn't say it's anything like crazy great, but it's a good knife.
Yeah. I'm not trying to get you to talk shit about it. I just, somebody who actually used one and like really used one, just your thoughts, and because it has a great reputation. The K-Bar. It's got a big history behind it, and
sure, yeah, no, it definitely has a good history behind it. But it's like the bayonet; it's just stayed stagnant in its design for 50 years, or probably longer now.
Right, and that's why I didn't understand why instead of the hidden tang, why they just wouldn't make it a full tang to give it that extra bit of durability and usefulness, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, a lot of knives were made out of full tang hidden tang was kind of the way to go back then. I mean, it's a lot less
cheaper
steel that you're using.
Yeah, it's cheaper. I mean, that's what it probably boils down to, is like cheaper to make.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the Strider, you kind of preferred the Strider over the K-Bar?
Yeah, I mean, what Strider was doing with their knives, they were filling a massive gap in the knife world with the quote unquote tactical knives, and the steel that was being used, the cord wrapped handle that prevented slippage, and their sheaths. Their sheaths were made by Special Operations Equipment, which was right next door to Strider. It was a really good sheath. And they put a Kydex liner on the inside of the nylon that protected it from protruding through and cutting you. It was just a really badass knife, especially back in the day when they started doing this stuff. And they were like $300 and something bucks back in the day. Now Strider's kind of gone different routes, and they're, as you can see, Mick and Dwayne are both doing a lot more folding knives than they are fixed blades. Mm-hmm. But their fixed blade knives were absolutely incredible.
So is it Mick Strider? Is this the
Mick Strider? Yeah.
Okay. So I've got it pulled up for our
yes.
listeners.
There you go. So like the BN is very similar to what I carried.
Okay. Is that kind of what replaced the BT? Is that where you're?
I don't. The BN I think is just a little narrower.
I don't see a BT on here.
They may not. I don't even know if they still do it or not. But a knife like that, when you're a young Marine or something, like you feel like a freaking badass with that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it's it's the full tang. It's a lot more sturdy. Just makes you feel more confident when you get that in your hand. As
far as the knife goes for the military is not winning wars on knives. Knives aren't winning wars.
No.
So it's like, to them, it's just not as an important of a.
But again, it's that whole mentality of I've got the best equipment, I've got the best,
sure,
and I'm going to be the best because I got the best.
But that's never the case with the military.
It's not. It never has been.
At least with the Marine Corps. I mean, I was getting new stuff that we were getting, the Army'd been using for 10 years already. So it's like, and
it goes back to what you were saying with American Snipers also, is that, they're buying better equipment and gear and giving it to our servicemen and women. They're donating it to it. And if they want something good, then they have to either buy it themselves or they have to get it donated from a third party.
Yeah.
To get the good stuff that saves their lives. Body armor, for example.
Yeah. And to give you an idea of what I used, I used in my sniper platoon, we had the M49 spotting scope. It was a fixed 20 power spotting scope. Okay. It's been used since the Korean War. Okay. And it was still issued out, 45 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Dog shit glass, aluminum tubing that got super, super hot, fixed power. Yeah, fixed power. So in low light or up close, it's like impossible to look through. That's the stuff that Marine snipers were issued forever, And so you have companies like AmericanSnipers.org that will go out and order, Leupold Mark IV 12 to 40 power with reticles and stuff in them, and get these units properly equipped that need that type of equipment. And it's very frustrating because everybody thinks that the military just gets this amazing equipment and mil spec this and mil spec that, and it's got to be good.
Mil spec is the least amount that it has to be. That's what people don't understand. I think mil spec is like, oh, that's great quality, but no, it's the minimum. It meets the bare minimum.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah, but it just frustrates me because they spend all these billions of dollars on this shit equipment that if they would just team up with organizations, like American Sniper, and just get them the good shit on the front end, and get everybody the good shit, and then we wouldn't have to and quit sending billions of dollars to these foreign countries that have nothing to do with us and could give two shits about America.
Right. Well, if they truly cared about the military,
Ukraine.
That's what they'd do.
I'm talking Ukraine, motherfuckers.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. That's for another show. We're talking
exactly.
We're talking blades. We're talking knives.
That's right.
So that's kind of what led to your knife affinity.
So I just honestly, before I started thinking about doing this, there was never like a point in my life where I was like, man, I want to make a knife one day. I think that would be fun. It just never, I sat there and watched Dwayne and Mick grinding for years.
Yeah.
Never thought, wow, that's cool. I want to do that. Now I do anything to be able to go back and be like, Dwayne, Mick, can you show me how to grind? Can you show me how to make a knife? All of that. It just never interested me. And then when I just thought about doing it and took my little knife making class and everything, then it became an interest to me. I'd never really had a big interest in it.
Let's talk about that. You said you took a knife class from Chuck.
Yeah, from a gentleman named Chuck Stone.
Chuck Stone. Tell us about him.
With Masters Forge. He is a blacksmith and a bladesmith. He was on Forged in Fire episode season, I think it was season 6, episode 20, and he ended up cutting his hand really bad during the show. And so he didn't move forward onto the main thing, but he's just an old school Texan blacksmith. And I Googled, knife makers or how to make a knife for the area in Texas that I was in. And it came up there. So I contacted him and I went out and did like 3 or 4 days with him, and everything that I thought I was going to learn, I didn't. And the things that I learned, I had no idea I was going to learn. So for instance, most everybody uses like a propane forge or a kiln for their heat treating process. And with Chuck, everything was coal forge. So you have to maintain the forge, you have to maintain the heat, you have to, get all that and watch the knife so the steel doesn't melt basically. And it was all hand hammering. There was, we didn't use disc grinders to cut any of the pieces off. If we wanted to cut pieces off, we had to use a hot chisel and, hammer off the piece. It was extremely old school. And I thought that was really cool. And so the first thing I went out and did was I bought a coal forge. And so I have a couple of coal forges now.
And you're saying coal, C-O-A-L, coal, not cold, but coal.
Correct.
Yeah. For the longest, I thought people were saying cold forge. I was like, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah, right? No, you're literally using coal
right
to produce the heat and get that blade to where it's at. And there's a lot of benefit. There's benefits to coal forging, and there's some downfalls to it. And I do all three now. So I have coal, I have propane, and then I have a kiln. And the kiln you need to have when you do like stainless blades. So stainless steel, you pretty much you have to have a kiln.
Is that because of the temperature you have to get it up to?
It has to do with the temperature and what they call the soak time. So for instance, like AEBL stainless steel, it needs to be, 1925 degrees for, 10, 15 minutes at that temperature. And so if you're running it in a propane forge, there's no way for you to maintain that constant temperature.
Yeah. Now, is there some kind of cookbook that people, because I know you didn't know all these metals and you didn't know the temperatures that they needed to be when you first got into this. I mean, that's something that you have to learn either through textbook or education or just hands-on. Oh shit, that didn't work.
No, I mean, I watched a lot of Forged in Fire, which, guys say this and that about it, but I learned what I took away from Forged in Fire was the mistakes that people made. I didn't look at it as like an educational thing on like how to make a knife. I almost looked at it as how not to make a knife.
Right.
And the mistakes that they make,
yeah.
I try to stay away from those.
Because that's not reality either. I mean, nobody tries to time themselves on making a knife. They want to put the time and the proper effort into it and the proper time.
For sure.
Yeah. No,
for sure. I mean, so I did watch a lot of Forged in Fire. I got that information and made some knives. And I basically just locked myself in my forge for like 4 months until I actually sold a knife. Like I was this total hermit for 4 months, just doing anything I can to figure out what's wrong, what I'm doing right, doing this and that. And then I kind of got my recipes together, and then I, invested into equipment. Because when I started my forge, I had about $5,000, which was like the last $5,000 I had to my name after not working for a year through COVID. And so when I got that going, $5,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it's not when you're talking about grinders and belts and steel and oil and forges and all this stuff. It goes quick. And then, oh, by the way, I don't know how to use any of this shit. And so now I have a trial and error period that turns into more of error period. Right. And so Greg's over there laughing at me because he knows what I'm talking about. But
was he there when I was calling you Greg instead of Jerod?
No. But so just learning how to do it, and then obviously you make this beautiful knife. Well, you think it's beautiful, and then you have to go test it and make sure that everything's good on it. And so you're basically destroying it. And then you do that for a bunch, And then
did you take the class first before you made the decision to invest the $5,000?
Yes. I took the class, and then I had the $5,000. I took the class, and then I immediately went and bought what I thought I needed. And I ended up wasting so much money on stuff that I just didn't know. And that's why, like, when my buddies like Greg and stuff want to get into knife making, Greg does it now with people through his nonprofit. The goal is, if I say you need a grinder, that's like saying you need a car. Well, what's your budget?
Right.
How fast do you want it to go? This and that.
It's like a drill press. You need a drill press. Well, there's all kinds of different qualities of drill presses.
Exactly. So when you buy all that stuff in the beginning, like I did, I just bought shit I just didn't need, or the wrong stuff. And that's the stuff that we try to do, is get people to buy the right stuff first. It doesn't have to be the whole buy once, cry once. That's not necessarily true. There's tons of equipment. The equipment to me is like in the firearms world, right? It's like, okay, fear the man who only owns one gun because he knows how to use that gun, right? Understanding and how to use your equipment, it doesn't matter what it is. If you know how to use it correctly and you've got your training and time on it, you'll be extremely effective with it, and it may not even be that great of a piece of equipment.
If you do it long enough too, then you develop your own tools.
For sure. Yeah. Exactly.
So you find out, like, oh, I repurposed this for this, and it works a lot better than if I were to go out and buy something for me, because everybody's different.
Yeah. I mean, and I have, I have friends that are big players in the knife industry that I've known over 20 years. And, like Dwayne and Mick and Greg Medford, I didn't, I get some guidance from them for sure, but like I didn't want to be the one guy that was like, hey man, I'm making knives, teach me how to do this. Like I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to use those favors. I kind of wanted to do it on my own, and I did get help from them, but it wasn't like, here, become an apprentice and work for 2 years under them and learn how to make knives.
Right.
But I'd ask them a stupid question every now and again.
Talk about the very first knife that you did make. Not the one you sold, but the very first one that you attempted to make. What were you trying to make?
I made the first one that I made was probably 8 or 9 inches total length. It was like a Tonto type, very, very right angle, square, blocky. Like if it was a car, it would probably be a Volvo, it's just boxy. But to me, it was like, holy crap, I just made a knife. Like I can do this now. Yeah.
Do you still have that?
I don't. I refined it a little. I should have just kept it in the condition that it was in, but I refined it over the years and stuff like that. But
I mean, you're always trying to improve and make things better. But so you don't have it anymore?
No, but I have a batch of knives that I did like right at the same era of that knife.
Yeah.
And when I look at those, I look at when I started this, and where I got lucky was I had my training company, that I started in like 2011. So I had a following of people that have done training with me for years. And
firearms training.
Yeah. And so that's when I learned in the beginning that I had really good friends, because I look back on the knives that I first started making and I'm like, yeah, my friends must just love me, because I don't know why they bought this. You know what I mean? Right. Even though I hope that one day those knives are worth, more than the knives that I'm making now, because of the different styles and
right. And it's the things. First ones you made for the first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, if I would have had if you'd have had one of the first Randalls, maybe I won't be as famous as Randall, but who knows?
You just started. You never know.
Be worth something. Exactly. So having that, knowing how to use the equipment is definitely, the big part of it.
Yeah. And how would you suggest somebody, instead of, like you said, trial and error, because again, that's a big investment. How do you suggest that they find out what equipment they need and how to use it.
So obviously you can get on the internet and get a whole bunch of information that isn't always applicable to you.
Right.
But what I would recommend, knowing what I know now, like I'm part of an organization called the Texas Knife Makers Guild. And the Texas Knife Makers Guild is an organization that basically supports bladesmiths and just people who are interested in blades or knives or bladesmithing. You don't have to be a blade maker to be part of the guild. But what the guild does, looking back on it now, if I would have done this in the beginning, I'd have been way better off. What the guild does is they tell you when all the knife shows are, and they tell you, it's $40, I think, a year or something. But they do these things called hammer-ins. And a hammer-in is where you have somebody that's pretty damn proficient with bladesmithing, and they host basically like a get-together at their forge, and they're usually free.
Yeah. And
people can just come out, and they show you techniques, how to hammer forge, how to do handles. Is
it like a class, or is it just you watch and you're just observing?
It's not like a structured class.
Yeah.
But it's like learn a couple of techniques. But what that does is it introduces you, there could be 200 people at a hammer-in. There could be 20 people at a hammer-in.
Right.
But it introduces you to people who are also kind of in the same boat, maybe a couple steps ahead of you, but they're in your area.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
If you're in
kind of like
Texas,
an AR or AK build class kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like a lick your lips. That was just a taste of what it is, but you can get a lot of questions answered. So whatever state you're in, I guarantee you they have a knife makers guild for that state, and you just look for hammer-ins. They're usually free, and I mean these are guys like Jim Poor, who owns Flatland Forge here in Texas. This guy's he's a amazing farrier, bladesmith, and he does hammer-ins, and they don't cost anything. But the guilds will tell you where and when all these are.
So I just pulled up a website. It's called knifemakersguild.com.
Okay.
The Knife Makers Guild was established in 1970. The purpose of the guild were and continue to be promote custom knives and knife makers, to assist the knife makers technically, to encourage ethical professional business, blah, 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 blah. So this sounds like a legitimate
So if you go to if you go to the Texas Knife Makers Guild, for instance.
I'm just going to see if this maybe might have one for every state and show you where you can sign up.
Yeah, I know there's like a National Knife Makers Guild, and that's the thing. You want to be part of the guild that's in your state. So when I sign up for the Texas Knife Makers Guild, they're on their website. They have all the events that they're a part of and that they support. And these guys, they're active. They hit you up, let you know when hammer-ins are coming. They let you know when shows are coming up and this and that. It's just it's a good organization for $40 a month. $40 a year. It's just an amazing organization. Super, super good people.
What's the one in Texas called?
Texas Knife Makers Guild.
I'm going to pull that up. Is this it?
Yep.
All right. But this is state specific. So if I'm in Tennessee, I couldn't join this guild.
Correct. You have to be a Texas resident, I guess.
Okay.
But it'll show events. It'll show, they'll contact you when there's hammer-ins and stuff like that. So here down at the bottom, here's some shows that are coming up. So like I'm going to be doing I'll be doing the Lost Pines knife show.
Okay. So this is a good resource. So what I was saying,
it's a great resource.
Somebody's thinking about getting into the knife making, they could join one of these guilds. Like you said, you don't have to be a knife maker. You could join the guild. Correct. Go to these hammer-ins that sound pretty cool. Sound like it's a good time for a little barbecue or something too that they might.
Yeah, they usually do like a little cookout or something. But I mean, you want all your questions answered, that's where you go.
Okay, very cool. So that's a good tip for our listeners that are possibly thinking about getting into into
For
knife
sure.
making, whether it's for professional or just for personal. So I know a lot of people are just, just for their own, personal hobby or, curiosity. They want to get. Yeah, I've watched that knife show. What's it called? Forged in Fire.
Forged in Fire.
I sit there and watch that, and I'm like, man, it looks like it would be a lot of fun to do, but not under those circumstances that they're doing it. Obviously,
Right.
There's no way I'd want to go on a competition show like that, and just seeing some of the processes and things that you do to go into it, it just looks like it would be very. Again, it's that creating your own thing that, I made this, I created it from nothing into something.
Right.
It's just that satisfaction of, I did this, kind of thing.
No, absolutely. I mean, I just never thought to even want to make a knife. It just never occurred to me. And then when I was kind of like watching the show and stuff, I'm like, man, this looks very interesting. Now you got to pay to play. You got to have the equipment to do it. But the thing with going into these hammer-ins and stuff like that, you start talking to guys. Like if a new knife maker walked into my shop right now, there's probably, no joke, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of shit that I don't use anymore that they would absolutely be able to use, that we could work something out on. Right. That's how all these guys are. It's like with you. You probably have more AR bolts laying around, for the guy that wants to learn how to build an AR-15. And these guys are generous with that stuff.
Sure.
I mean, the knife community is a very cool community. I've had very high-end knife makers give me some of the best compliments that I could possibly get. They get nothing out of it. It's like
the firearms industry. I mean, and especially the competition community. When you go to a 3-gun competition, or you're new and getting into one, I mean, people bend over backwards to help you out and
absolutely
suggest equipment and even let you borrow and use their own equipment. It's like you say, I've got this holster that, I replaced it with this one, but here, try this out. You might like it, kind of deal. So you're saying the knife community is very, very similar to that.
No, it absolutely is.
Nice.
Absolutely is.
Very cool. So as you're getting into this and you're learning your technique and your methods and, kind of where you want to go. And I guess you got into this, you went into with the mindset of you want to start a business, not that you're doing this for hobby or.
I don't know if at first I wanted to start a business. I really was kind of looking at this as like, maybe I can sell a couple of knives to somebody's for when I need some extra cash and not really make a whole business out of it.
Sure.
I never thought that it was going to turn into a big, not that I'm a big business, but turn into something bigger than just maybe, to me, I thought like making a knife was going to take me like a whole month to make.
Yeah.
So like maybe I can make a knife and sell it for, $400 or whatever and get a little bit of extra income. Because during COVID, a little extra $400 a month would go a long way for me where I was at. And, fortunately I was in a small town in Texas where the cost of living was extremely cheap. And, I had military disability coming in and things like that helped. But, when
cost of living is not cheap anymore, buddy.
No, but when you're scraping to get by and somebody wants to give you $400 for a knife, hell yeah, I'll take that money. It just kind of snowballed into a little bit more than that.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to actually decide that, I can legitimately make a living at this?
I think I'm still deciding, to be honest. I think probably in the last year is where I got to where I could pretty much get by.
Yeah.
If I watch my
You're 3 years
expenses.
into this. You started about in 2020.
Yeah, I sold my first knife. My first knife was around March of 2021. 2020.
I'm just going by what you said. You kind of started in
March
2020.
Of 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. March of 2021 is when I sold my first knife.
Okay.
And then this probably the last year is where it got to the point to where I could, not live comfortably every month, you know.
But fair to say it took you about a good 2 years to really decide that, yeah, this is kind of the direction I want to head and try to make a living at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I'm slow. So the average person could probably do it in 6 months.
Well,
so
I mean, everybody's got their own pace. So,
yeah.
And then life and then other things going on too. Like you said, you're doing it during COVID, and I'm sure supplies were probably hard to get during that time, and materials and, you know, things like that, which they, you know, things seem to be as far as supply and demand coming back. You know, getting our regular distributions and whatnot back until the next thing happens. You know, you never know when disaster's going to strike. And, oh, by the way, For Patriots, a sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast, will get you prepared for the next big disaster that strikes. So check out forpatriots.com.
Yeah, it's a good company.
Yeah. Are you familiar with them? They're right here in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, based here in Tennessee. So we just took them on. They're new sponsors, and we're proud to have them. And I've been using their products for the past couple of months now and really enjoy the food products. I haven't used any of their other products yet, but so the knife, the very first knife, you were talking about the very first knife. What was it? What did you make? What did you sell? The one you sold?
It was an M. It was what I call the. Hold on, I can tell you because I have it.
Oh, that's
I have every knife I've ever sold.
You've made a lot since then. You got to remember your first one though. Was it a custom order?
No.
So it's just one you made. Did you put it like on the internet, or was it a buddy that's like, "Hey, that's cool"?
It was a buddy.
It was
a buddy. I might have put it on Facebook, but I have a list of every blade I've made, and it looks like it was a. I don't offer it anymore.
Yeah.
But it was a basically it's a sax. It's a mini sax, it was called the sax stabby at the time. So it was just a little 7-inch overall cord wrapped handle. You know, the grinds I'm sure were crooked as a question mark and all that. But it was to a buddy of mine, and that was kind of like I said. I had a good following of guys who had trained with me.
Sure.
Clients and friends, and they definitely supported me when I first.
Yeah. And do you keep in touch with that guy who bought it? You still?
Oh yeah. One of my knives is named after him. Yeah.
And what? Does he still have it? Does he still have that knife?
Oh, I'm sure he does. This guy never sells anything he buys.
Okay. Very cool. I mean, that's good that you. And do you keep track of everybody who buys your knives as well? So you've got like a pedigree of for your knives kind of deal.
Yep.
That's cool. So to date, how many have you sold? If that's something you want to disclose. If you don't want to disclose that, that's fine.
I don't know the exact number, but I just looked up the other day. I just looked up for what I've done in this year so far, and it's about I was about 223 blades since January 1st
of this year.
Of this year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, no, go ahead.
A lot of those are my shivs, so you know they're a smaller, you know, less time consuming.
Right. And we're going to talk about your shivs. I want to talk about those because we're going to be giving away one of those today to one of our lucky listeners. One of your shivs. But are you making like I'll make a batch of shivs, or I'll make a batch of these and then I'll put them up and then just first come first serve? Or are you getting custom people say, hey, I want you to make me a whatever?
That's a great question. I know it's going to sound weird. I hate taking orders. So unless I know that I'm going to be here in Texas for a while and I have the time to do it, because like if I take an order from somebody, it always seems like, man, if I went 2 hours over the freaking date that I said I was going to have it out, then I start catching flack.
Right.
So I try not to take a bunch of orders. So I'll, like with the shivvies now, I have a couple of dealers. I have Free Wind Defense and BDS Tactical, and that's where you buy my shivvies. So if you go, I don't do a lot of orders for shivvies because I can't keep them in stock. And when I'm sending them out to my dealers, they're ordering in 10 or 20 or more, batches of 10 or 20 or more. So I can do a blanket order of just like, okay, I can commit to this many shivvies, get it out of the way, ship them out, and it's done. Versus if I'm trying to sell them myself, I have to play guess which color handle the customer wants and guess which this and guess which that. And my dealers just buy them in bulk, and then I just try to refer them to my dealers. And that's on the shivvies.
Okay. That's strictly the shivvies that you're doing.
Yes, I don't
orders.
Sell any of my knives, any of my actual traditional knives to dealers. I just don't have the margins to do it.
Right. Now, those type like the carvers,
right,
the skinners, the stabbies, the fighters. So you're just making those just at will. It's like I'm going to make one of these today, and I'll put it up for sale. And
a lot of the times, I will take some orders on some things. It just kind of depends on the time of the year. Like, I'm going to put up a post here pretty soon that basically says, hey, if you want a knife guaranteed delivered by Christmas, I need to have your deposit in by October 15th. Because this year, I'm not working, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of December trying to get a knife out to you because you waited till the last minute.
Sure.
So I'll take some orders there. But for the most part, I have to keep some sort of insurance policy for me. So I'll make a bunch of knives and put them up on Facebook or put them up on the website. And if they don't all sell, I don't really care, because I then put those in a reserve, and I have to have 50, 60 blades in stock in a stash. Because if I break my arm, I need to still be able to sell some knives when I won't be able to make them.
Right.
So I have a reserve of knives and stuff. So when I put them up for sale and they don't sell, it's fine. I'll sell them at a show. They'll sell eventually, whatever it is. So it's worked out so far.
So on your website, if our listeners go to shop now, those would be the ones that they could buy right now?
Yes.
That are for sale?
The hardest part right now, and I'm probably about a week away from this, is in about a week my merchant account will be set up so that they can literally buy it right off the website. Because right now I don't have the merchant account set up.
Okay. So if they want to buy one now,
they need to email me.
Just email you and then work out some kind of a Venmo or something like that?
Yeah, like Zelle or I can still run a credit card, but I like Zelle the best.
Okay.
But if we have to run credit cards or whatever, that's
what kind of
fine.
Materials are you using on your handles? And I guess you probably use different materials for different types of blades.
Yeah. So G10 is probably my favorite. G10 is like a compressed fiberglass composite that's super, super strong. It's very easy to work with. It comes in a total assortment of colors. And, so that one right there is G10. That's probably my favorite. It's not that expensive on the customer's end. Once you start getting into like the custom wood and hybrid composites and stuff, you're talking about a handle that costs 6, 7, 8, 10 times more than the G10 does. And so it adds to the cost of the blade. And I'm trying to, obviously I want to make money on my knives, but my goal is to try to have a really good knife that's pretty affordable for, to the average person. $200 to some people is a lot of money to spend on a knife. And I agree, but at the same time, it's like, all right, to make that knife right there that you're looking at,
Let's tell our listeners what I'm looking at.
That's called the MD. That's named after a buddy of mine. That's the MD Stabby. And so the Stabby line just means that it's a 7-inch overall knife. So anything that says Stabby, it doesn't matter the profile of it. It's 7 inches long overall. So it's a good everyday carry knife.
Okay. And that's your definition.
That's my definition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, there's a shiv. And the shivs are made primarily, the AS Chivy is primarily made to be ran in a molly loop, vertical molly column on a plate carrier. So it takes up almost no real estate on your vest. But if you need some sort of devastating flesh separating tool, that's a good choice.
Right. And talk about the Chivy.
So basically, the Chivy derived from the OSS SOE dagger or shiv that they wore, like when they jump into France to hook up with the French resistance. They had a dagger that had no cutting edge on it. It was just for stabbing. Mm-hmm. And it was basically made to be able to penetrate like the leather jacket on a German uniform and be able to take his, do a battlefield recovery, take his weapons, take his gear, and link up with the French resistance. And it was an undercover, low profile dagger. And my original ones that I made did not have a cutting edge on them. They were just a point. And then some guys are like, hey, it's hard to open up an MRE, without a cutting edge. So I started putting a 2-inch. There's only a 2-inch cutting edge on the shivs. And the reason for that too is if the weapon hits bone and your hand slips up forward, because of how narrow it is, you can't put a guard on it. So it keeps your hand from getting, slicing your fingers and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's just a low profile, slim line, get to it with either hand on my plate carrier type weapon.
And
they're
cool.
very, very popular. Like I don't even have one really here to even show because they're just, I can't make them fast enough.
Well, they're on your website and you got them on your social media page too. And for our viewing audience, I just pulled them up and you got a really good look at them there. So talk about your fighters. What defines your fighters?
So my fighters are basically going to be right at around 10 inches overall. So still not a real big knife, but, big enough to where, they're not just a small everyday carry type of knife. So usually generally about 10 inches overall. Everybody thinks that you have to have this really big knife to be able to do damage. And it's just a misconception. You do not have to have a big knife to do a lot of damage. And so having something in the 10-inch overall range to me is about the perfect size knife. Mm-hmm. 4.5, give or take 4.5-inch handle, 5.5-inch, 6-inch blade is more than enough to do just about everything that you could possibly need it to do. There you have the kukri. That's one of the larger knives that I make. The kukri is about 15 inches overall, I believe. And I kept the traditional kukri shape of the blade profile, but I changed the handle from what the Nepalese do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the biggest one that I make right now.
And they all have, well, not all, the Smatchet doesn't have one, but you got like JW Smatchet. You've got the JB Kirky, the EB Shear. Are these friends, all named after friends of yours?
They're all named after friends. The Smatchet actually used to have the name of a friend. He was a guy I'd known for a while that asked me to make him a Smatchet, and so I named him the Smatchet after him. And then he ordered another one, and I sent it to him, and he ghosted me and never paid me for it. So I took his name off of it.
Wagon.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they're all named after friends or family members.
Nice.
As kind of a little, thank you to the
little tribute.
Sure.
Very cool. No, these are really good looking knives, man. I'm going through and looking through the fighters right now.
Yeah.
I really like the MV fighter. The MV is super popular right now. I've been making those a lot more than I normally did, and it's a mean blade. Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the design on this one.
So basically what I did on this is it's got a Tonto type tip, but I wanted to put a little bit of an inward curved on the cutting edge side of it, which allows the blade to have a real big initial wound channel. So from the tip of the point down to the tip of where the main bevel starts at that 45-degree looking angle, from the tip of the blade down to where the main bevel starts, you've got a real high wound channel. So here's an MV fighter right here.
Stand by. Let me switch screens here.
Okay.
I was trying to get a real close up, but there you got one right there, so that works out good.
Okay, so here's an MV, and so from the tip here to the tip here. Okay.
So would that be the Tonto? The Tonto?
It's basically a Tonto. Yeah. It allows me to have a big height here. So my wound channel is almost 2 inches from here to here. Okay. Yeah. But what I do when I do the curve on the belly is it's taking a little bit of the weight and size out of the blade, but then it also acts as a sharp impact point here that if I did slash for whatever reason, this is definitely digging into you hard.
Yeah.
If this was just a little bit straighter, because this comes down and almost becomes its own point.
Right.
And then when I do the hollow grinds, that takes weight out right here.
Toward the back of the blade. Yeah.
And then on my grind here, what that does is that keeps the tip and the initial wound channel thicker. So if I ground this part down here all the way up.
And for our listeners, talk about when you're saying this part and that part.
Sorry. So you see my grind here that goes up the Tonto point.
Right.
Okay. If I ground that all the way up like a traditional Tonto to where it's ground all the way up to the spine up here, what that would do is this point right here would be the same thickness all the way back here.
It elongates your point.
My tip would be a lot weaker.
Yeah.
Than what it is.
It almost looks like, hold that up again. It almost looks like a shark's tooth. Where the initial point, the Tonto point is, and it goes back and kind of opens up. It almost looks like a shark's tooth.
To me, it's a great sized fighting knife. It's not super big, but it's not super small. And this is made out of stainless steel. And then what I do, I haven't engraved it yet. What I do is I bead blast the stainless finish to matte it so that it just gives it that gray look instead of the shiny look.
Yeah.
So this is actually stainless steel, so it'll hold up pretty good against the rust.
Nice.
And weather and stuff.
Yeah, and that was a G10 handle on that one?
G10 handle, yeah.
So how are you going in and shaping your because you've got patterns on your G10. So what inspires you to do the grip pattern on a G10? Yeah,
so it's pretty popular in the knife world right now with what guys are doing. It's basically, it's called scalloping, and basically what you're doing is I just use a Dremel tool basically, and I'm able to put the scallops in it. And what that does is, it's like a fluted barrel. The fluted barrel takes weight off the gun, but it also creates surface area, right? So if you measured the circumference of a barrel in a fluted barrel, the fluted barrel is going to be lighter and have more surface area if you measured it. So same concept. If you're going to hold on to a knife, it's like a gun. The more you can grip it and have surface contact, the more control you're going to have with it. And the scalloping gives you a little, takes a little bit of weight off it, probably a minuscule amount of weight because of the material that it is.
Yeah.
But it creates more surface.
Gives you a positive grip.
Hand. Absolutely.
Gives you a positive grip on it.
And it looks cool. And some guys don't like it. And that's why, I do on some of these, I don't do scalloping. there'll just be a smooth finish on it. And the thing is like with this knife right here, this MD, if somebody wants this knife, but they were like, man, I just wish it was scalloped. Okay, I can scallop it. It's no problem.
Yeah.
I'm basically at the point right now where I would scallop it if I was going to scallop it.
And do you have a certain, when you say you scallop it, is every scallop unique and different, or do you have a certain pattern?
It can come close, but it's not going to be like completely replicated.
Okay. I didn't know if you had like a stencil or something that you could put on and you could get the exact same cut every time.
So I do. Let's see if we can see these. So like these all look a little bit different, but basically what I'm doing, what I wanted to do on my knives is I do everything freehand. I don't use any jigs, any guides. There's guides that you can buy that you can secure your knife into and run it on your belt and get a beautiful grind. I do all mine freehand. I do all my handle work freehand with Dremel and chainsaw files and all sorts of stuff. All of my I guess you'd call jimping, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Little knurls that I put on the spine there. I just do it all freehand, and I want the customer to have something that's unique, even if it's just one little difference. I mean, I see how the knife world is, and there's companies that I don't have to make this knife. I can send this right here to a company and have it made for me, start to finish.
Just give them your specs.
Yep, I just send them the specs. They'll do it all for me. There's companies that will do your handles and have all the work done to where you get it. All you have to do is slap it on there. But my thing right now, at least, is with the number of knives that I'm making and everything, is I want to be a knife maker, not a knife manufacturer. And it's not to knock the guys that are manufacturing a knife, but at the end of the day, if somebody, some other company, not my employee or me, is just making this exact knife for me with this exact handle and it's just start to finish done by them, I'm just like a broker basically.
Yeah.
And I'm not making the knife. So that's
kind of how that's the thing too, is and at some point, all the knife makers, I guess, if they get to a certain degree of fame or successfulness, that you have to make that decision because you can only make so many at a time. And if somebody wants one of your knives, then at some point, some people have to make a decision to, I mean, for instance, Buck Knives.
Yeah.
They manufacture knives. They have machines and processes that
absolutely cut
and there's nothing wrong with that. And they make great knives. And that's one I want to. This is one I want to talk to you about here. I'll talk to you about that one in a minute. But
when Buck started making knives,
they were doing it by hand.
The Buck family was making knives because they knew how to make knives. I guess my point is like anybody with a couple $1,000 can send specs off to some third party and be like, hey, make this knife for me because I want to sell them, and I have Texas Knives or whatever is my company. And now they're going around saying they're a knife maker. You're not a knife maker. If you don't know how to make a knife, you're not
designer. You're a knife designer.
Yeah. Of course, Buck has to do that. They sell tens of thousands, if not more,
millions
knives a year. Yeah, but somebody at Buck knows how to make a knife.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, it's CJ, the owner. His dad was
that's what their whole family lineage was.
His granddad. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, but I mean that's neither here nor there. I was just saying at some point that's the differentiation is like between a knife maker because you're actually making them yourself.
Yeah, I can't make two of these that are just 100% identical. There's going to be scalloping difference. There's going to be something that's
going to be like a thumbprint. Each one's going to be different.
It's going to be a little bit different. Yeah. But like what model is that Buck that you have there?
So this is a new one. This hasn't hit the market yet. They are only making these for Special Forces right now. So do you remember the Buckmaster? You remember the original Buckmaster? This is the Buckmaster 2.0. So this is their combat diver knife.
Gotcha.
So this is just being made for the SEAL teams right now. And
Nice.
I was lucky enough to get one. I helped in the original design and concept and all that process of it. So they sent me one.
Nice.
So it's got this, they call this the anchor wing
Yeah.
that attaches to it. So a lot of people, back in the day, the original ones, they had those two little pointy things that
What was the buck 110?
people were using them as like grappling hooks or whatever. But the thing about this is it has a specific use. It's got a specific use, a specific utility for it, and it's used to anchor their boats. So it's used as an anchor to when they, underwater, got to post their boats or coming to shore to anchor the boat. They use it to anchor their boats with. But then it's a complete.
If Batman was going to carry a knife, that's the knife. He'd carry.
Right? It's an awesome knife.
Yeah, that's pretty slick.
It's very cool. But those are coming to the civilian population probably next year. I think they're going to release them at the next SHOT Show for the civilian market.
Yeah, and so something like that. Like I can't make stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like that has to be made the exact same way for every single one of those blades. It has to be identical.
But it's a full tang. Yeah.
Right.
I love it. But you could make one. You could make these. It's just they're going to be a lot slower for you to make. And
well, I could make one of those, but what I'm saying is like to keep the specs the same. Everything on that has to be water jet, and the specs have to be completely refined. And this, and that's where.
That's when the manufacturer. That's when it has to be manufactured.
I can't make 100 of those that would have the little anchors fitting in perfect and doing all that. It's just not doable for, that's what's great about those knives and stuff, and the way that they're manufacturing those is they have to be that way. For the guy that's carrying an everyday carry knife, he wants something a little different.
The Kel-Tec KSG 410 is the perfect sidekick with no kick. At just over 1.5 inches wide, just over 26 inches long, and just over 5 pounds, you'll be hard-pressed to find a more impressive 410 bore shotgun. In fact, it's the world's first and only pump-action 410 bore bullpup shotgun. The side-by-side dual feeding tubes and one in the chamber delivers an impressive 11-round total capacity, making it as functional as it is fun. Innovation, performance, Kel-Tec.
Now it's time for the Talking Lead
Facts to fight the myths.
Okay.
And as a knife maker, I'm sure there's probably things that you hear people say, or maybe some misconceptions that they have about custom knife makers. And I think we just went over a great one right there as far as a knife maker versus a manufacturer. Are there any other myths out there about custom knife makers that you'd like to dispel?
I think kind of the main topic lately is like knife steel has become like computers in 2005. Every 3 or 5 months, there's some new steel version that's come out that's the flavor of the week. And because of that, a lot of people just like shun or don't give credit to the original steels that were used to make knives for hundreds of years.
Right.
So like, for instance, I've had people tell me, oh, well, that knife's made out of 1095 steel. 1095 steel is old steel, and it's just not, it's just not that great a steel. And it needs to be made out of Magna Cut or, S35 or 3V or something like that. And so they'll almost kind of like not even give it a chance because it's made out of this type of steel. But then if I take that 1095 and I add layers of 15 and 20 and I make Damascus out of it, they're like, oh my gosh, that knife's amazing. And it's like, dude, the most important thing about making a knife is the heat treat process. And if it's done right. It doesn't matter what steel you use. And if the heat treat isn't done right, then the steel's worthless. And so if you have there are steel that will be more corrosion resistant. There's steel that will hold a better edge. There's steel that's easier to sharpen. Okay. At the end of the day, does that end user he or she most likely even notice the difference? Probably not. If you maintain your stuff, it's going to last you, knives will last you hundreds of years, right?
But that's why
Thousands
you use
of
different
years.
steels, because it depends on what the utility of the knife is going to be for. So
yeah, if I'm doing a dive knife, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
there's steel that I want to
kitchen
use.
knife versus a Skinner versus whatever it may be.
Yeah, but like if you talk like for me, and this is just my opinion, like I don't like Damascus kitchen knives. I think it's just not. I think they're beautiful, but you're dipping them in ferric acid to get the stain to come out. Okay, and now you're cutting food with it. Food is also, a lot of food is acidic, so it patinas high carbon steel. So like for me, my kitchen knives are stainless.
Yeah.
Because a kitchen knife to me should be able to withstand wetness, acid, all sorts of stuff. So that's my personal preference. A Skinner, kind of the same thing. I don't necessarily want to be skinning my animal with a knife that has ferric acid all over it and contaminating. It's not food grade at that point. A lot of guys are using vinegar or coffee, but it doesn't last. That doesn't stay on there. So for me, the chef knives and the Skinners, stainless steel. Most of the steel I use is a specific stainless steel for my kitchen knives and my Skinners. Everyday carry knives, yeah, that's where you get into the whole, well, I want this, or this. And the difference in price is pretty amazing. And there's a big difference between some of the steel prices.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, things cost. Things have a cost associated with them. So if you want a certain type of a metal, be prepared to pay for it.
Yeah. And you got to ask yourself, does it even make a difference for what you're using it for? Would you know the difference between the MagnaCut and the S35 VN if I just gave you those two knives?
And how would you know the difference?
I don't know. I'm not real familiar with I've never made anything out of MagnaCut, but I've made stuff out of S35. And I guess what I'm saying is if I made one from S35 VN and one out of MagnaCut, and you went out and did the same things with them for the same amount of time, would you be like, man, this one just absolutely outperformed this one for the price difference that you paid for it?
Right. I get what you're saying.
There's knife snobs just like there are gun snobs, and I'm not knocking them. I'm a gun snob, and
sure.
So you got to make what the customer wants.
You like what you like, and you need to make no apologies for it.
The tattoo artist doesn't have to like the tattoo.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. The customer needs to. I've heard a lot of complaints on that. It's funny. That's why I laugh, because I know a couple of people who have gotten tattoos recently that absolutely hate their tattoos.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the risk of it, there, buddy.
Exactly.
That's why I don't have any tattoos. Got no complaints about my tattoos.
Exactly.
So you're talking about the heat treating process. Talk about how you go and you heat treat your knives.
So like I said earlier, you can do coal forge, propane, or kiln for the most part. And the heat treating all depends on the exact steel that you're using. So, and it's not just high carbon steel or stainless steel.
And why and for our novice, why do you heat treat? What is heat treating?
Heat treating is basically, so your heat treat process can involve several steps depending on how you made that knife. So if you are hammer forging or doing Damascus and you're heating it up to such high temperatures that the grain structure inside is growing because of how much you've stressed out that steel from the heat and the impact, then you have to do what's called normalizing. You have to get that grain structure back to normal. So you would normalize or even anneal it and normalize it, and then actually do the heat treating where you're actually going and quenching the blade. So carbon steel, for instance, is you have two types of carbon steel. You have basically high carbon steel and you have low or medium carbon steel, which basically equates to hardenable or unhardenable. So high carbon steel is hardenable. Low carbon steel, you're not really going to get any hardness out of it. And what the hardness is heating it up to a specific temperature and quenching it in oil, water. And what that does is it immediately hardens that steel, and almost to the point to where it's very brittle. It could actually break very easy. And so what you have to do then is you have to temper that steel, and you're actually taking the hardness out to give it that little bit of flexibility and things like that. So the blade isn't the blade until it's been heat treated. If that all makes sense.
I was looking to see if you had a video where you were doing something.
I don't know if I have a video on there or not. That's weird. Huh. So basically like on Forged in Fire, where they heat up the steel and they throw it in the oil and they're quenching it. That's immediately taken that blade from like 1500 plus degrees to like 700 in like a second. So it's hardening it. And then you have to temper it to where you're taking it out. That's just a video. That's a video of a test I did on it. I don't know if I have any. I thought I might have had a quench video on there, but maybe I don't. Yeah, I guess not.
You've got the acid etching one. We'll show that one here. Just a minute.
And so by hardening it, you're making that knife true. But the problem is if you go higher in temperature above what that steel is not meant to be quenched at, you could have major problems where it's actually weakened. And so your heat treat process is absolutely important.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that if you watch Forged in Fire, I mean, I hate keep going back to Forged in Fire, but that's probably what most people can relate to. Is
right.
That seems to be where they always have the problems is the heat treating. That if their knife fails, it's because they didn't properly heat treat it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the kiln comes in handy, because I can say, okay, this steel needs to be 1525 degrees for 10 minutes. So I type in 1525 degrees for 10 minutes, hit start, and boom, it just does it. And then I quench at that point. When you're using a propane or a coal forge, you have a pyrometer where you're trying to guess play guess what temperature it's at. And those things aren't 100% accurate. Right. And, to hold that temperature for that amount of time is almost impossible.
Now, do you have so after you've made your blades and to test the integrity of your blades, what do you put them through to test them?
So like generally what I do is if I have a new batch of steel, so like say I get a new batch of 80 CRV2 in, I'll take pieces of that and I'll heat treat it just like I would my knives. And I basically I'll do a snap test where I'll put it in the quench or I'll put it in the oil. And remember what I said, it gets really brittle. So then what I do is I can put it in a vise and I can snap it and look at the grain structure and just make sure that my grain structure is good. And I do that for every batch. And then I write on it the date, the time, the exact formula that I used. And then I put it in, I have this big bin of broken pieces of steel. Every once in a while, I take a knife and actually break it and snap it and stuff. I'll hit some bones and stuff. I don't do it with every knife. And the steel that I buy is from a very, very good source. So it's all been very, very consistent with the heat treat recipe that I have has been very consistent. So, it's not, I don't have to go out and break a knife every time I make one just to see that it works. So,
yeah. So of the batches that you've sold and put out there, you ever had one returned? Any issues?
I had one of the first MD stabbies that I sold to the guy that it was named after. He he was running it on, I don't know if he was running it on his neck at the time or on his belt. And he said he dropped it and like the tip broke. It landed tip first on the concrete and the tip broke.
Yeah.
And so he sent it back to me and I fixed it. It was super easy fix. It wasn't like a big break. And
okay, that's
it
how
was
much
one of
of
the
the
first MDs that I did. So this is an MD stabby.
Right.
And it was one of the first MDs that I did. And this grind line went all the way across. So like I said earlier, if this part here is ground to the same height that I am here, it's going to be much thinner and weaker tip. And so that's why I actually started putting that on there. Now that one in particular, if the viewers watch, there's 3 videos to that. If you watch what had to take place for me to even get that tip to break, good.
Let me replay that.
okay, that's how much of the
So that
blade was in the vise.
So this is the 3rd video that I did because I didn't want the videos to be crazy long. But basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to break the blade in half. And I put it in a vise. So this is the last video where I actually got it to finally break. The videos before it, I'm trying to break the knife. I'm trying to break the tip. I literally have a 1/4 inch of the blade in a vise and I'm pulling on it and pulling on it. You can watch the blade, it flexing and flexing and it goes back to true. And this is only a 3-inch blade.
Right.
So there's only 3 inches of cutting edge on that. And it was pretty impressive that it took me as long as it did to get the blade to actually break.
So you guys can go to his Facebook page. And do you have a YouTube channel? Is that where these videos
No,
are?
I don't.
Okay, so go to your Facebook page, and he's got some videos.
Okay, I have a Craig Staley stabby.
And my mouse is
Awesome, man.
working here. I'm trying to turn the volume down. So there's one of you doing a little, is it acid etching?
Yeah, that's an acid etching, yeah.
Yeah. So you're dipping it in, and you're going to get that. So this is Damascus. Is that what this one is?
That is, yeah, that's a San Mai Damascus, yeah.
And that's, that brings up, the San Mai and all the different types of ways to, to forge, not really forge, but to bring the metals together that you're.
Right.
Talk about the different styles and the ones that you use.
So I like San Mai. Damascus is really cool and it has very pretty patterns. San Mai to me is one of the cooler ones because it's easier to make, so I can make more San Mai blades. It's less money to sell. So the guy or the girl that wants like a really cool looking knife that has like definitive contrast points and everything through the blade, it makes for a really beautiful blade. And basically what San Mai means is you're taking 2 different types of steel and it's 3 pieces. So I would have I could have my high carbon steel in the center, and then these 2 pieces on the outside could be mild steel, or a different type of steel with a higher nickel concentration or content. And I'm heating them up to about 2300 degrees, and then I'm compressing them in with a hydraulic press and basically getting all 3 of these to be forge welded together to be one piece. Then what happens is when I grind my bevels, I'm grinding those outside layers that I had sandwiched the high carbon steel in the center, and it exposes the high carbon steel on the inside, but it keeps the mild steel on the outside up by the spine. So if you're using it for like hitting, like mild steel will bend, hardenable steel will break for the most part.
Right.
So if I have them combined, I have the mild steel on the outside that's absorbing a lot of shock and impact. So it's not going to necessarily break nearly as easy as that if it was just high carbon steel.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
it does to me.
And so like, here's that knife that I showed you in the quench. This was the first Damascus knife that I ever made.
Oh, okay,
And-
cool.
Okay. So you see how the Damascus is up here,
Up toward the
and then
spine.
I have a layer of nickel,
Yeah.
and then down here is all black. And what I did was I took 2 pieces of Damascus, and then I put a piece of high carbon in the center with the nickel layer, and I sand mined those together. So when I would grind out, trying to get the angle right, when I grind this bevel out, it exposes the high carbon center, but it still keeps the Damascus. And it's basically, this is a sand mined Damascus, basically.
Okay. And that little nickel line going down the center there, that doesn't give it a weak point or anything like that.
No. Now, if the nickel was on the cutting edge, that would be bad because it's not hard.
Right, it's soft. You
It's
wouldn't be able
more
to keep an
for
edge.
It's more for looks, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the San Mai is your kind of preferred.
I like San Mai. Yeah, I think the San Mai gives you a cool contrasting look, but still the average person, doesn't have to fork over, $600 for it.
Yeah. What are the other ways?
I mean, I've the Damascus. I definitely have been doing, more of the Damascus. Here's another Damascus. I'm trying to get the lighting right in here. But,
look, it's showing up. Yeah.
this is a dagger I did.
Yeah, I like that. It's sharp.
And for the most part, my stuff is all basically, it's what you call mono steel. It's one piece of steel. I usually use stainless or high carbon.
Yeah.
I try to have a distinct look, and I want to, it's hard. Knives have been around for thousands of years. So for Jerod Johnson, the new knife maker, to come out and get his own look is not an easy thing to do, right? Because it's already been done 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
It's like how many gun companies are making an AR-15? They're all an AR-15. They just have a little bit of different stuff on it.
Yeah.
So, I try to do stuff that makes sense. Here is this is the CJ Skinner. This is named after my dad. This is a skinning knife. Basically, if you look, I put almost like a downward swooping guard that kind of gives you reference to where your fingers are when you're inside of an animal doing the skinning process. Because what happens is anybody that's gutted an animal, you've cut your little booger hooks when they get away from you on there. The other thing I do is I wish I had a flashlight, but I put 2 cat eyes. There's a cat eye there and a cat eye there, and they're basically glow in the dark. So if you're gutting out an elk in low light, I need to pull on the guts, I can set my knife down, pull on some guts, and still reference where my knife is because the cat eyes will be lit up.
I needed that on my last Skinner because I laid it down and I lost it.
And so for the guys that know what it's like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This is I don't know if you're familiar with Patriot Ordnance Factory.
Yeah, POF.
POF. So I used to be very, very close friends with the owner, Frank DeSoma.
Yeah, I've had Frank Frank was on the show a couple of years ago, obviously before he passed. But yeah, great guy.
One of my best friends. I love him. I worked for him. I've hunted with him. This is the FD stabby. So this is the Frank DeSoma stabby.
Oh, nice.
I do it with the Patriot Curanite handles because Frank was a big Patriot. So I do the red, white, and the blue pins, for Frank. So hopefully he'd be proud of this.
Oh, absolutely. You need to go back and listen to that episode I did with him. It was a good one.
I will now that I
funny.
know. I miss hearing his voice.
We had a good time. It was a good time. So let's do some listener questions now.
Okay.
And these are all going to be from Instagram because I didn't make a post on Facebook. I know you did on your Facebook page. So if you've got any questions, we'll be happy to field those too. And this is how you're going to be eligible to win the shibby that Jerod is giving away today. And we're also going to be giving away Mission First Tactical dump tray and a Seal 1 and done for all your gun cleaning, knife cleaning, and protection needs, go to seal1.com. Use the code LEADHEAD, get 25% off. As I'm
If you order
stalling.
one of my knives, they will have Seal 1 on them somewhere. That's
Okay.
all I use on those.
Very nice. All right, let's go to the post. Pull it up here. And as I'm reading this is 1:15 p.m. on, what is today? The 2nd. The 2nd. If your comment isn't in, then, and you put it in after, then you'll know we already recorded, and that's why you weren't entered. Bobus 1776. Jerod, what do you feel is more important in blade geometry? The type of point, the type of grind, or thickness? What grind do you prefer? Thanks. And those blades fall into the badassery category.
Well, I appreciate him saying that and asking that question. It's kind of a hard question to answer, only because to sort of answer his question, it would depend on the purpose of the knife that you're looking to have be used. So like if you have a skinner versus a kukri, I use a lot of hollow grind. Hollow grind is a method that takes a lot of steel off of the knife as you're grinding it.
Mm-hmm.
So here's an example of a hollow grind. If you feel this, if you ran your finger from here to the spine, you would feel that it's concave. It goes deeper right here because I'm using the wheel, the point of the wheel, to actually grind this out. So it's going in deeper. It's deeper right here than it is right here or up here.
So from the blade to the center of the knife.
Yep, to the center. It's deeper right here.
And then it flares back out going toward the spine.
It flares back out, and you get basically an apple seed type edge that's kind of shaped like this, essentially.
Gotcha.
And the nice thing about a hollow grind is, when you're talking about a knife like a kukri, okay? The kukri, I do a hollow grind on the kukri as well. And part of the reason why I do that is I have this much blade up here and I have
spine.
This much handle. So I'm looking at being blade heavy, right? Regardless on my balance.
Right.
It wants to go forward, right?
Because it's a chopper, right?
Because it's a chopper, but it's also a fight. I mean, people don't realize that a kukri is meant for stabbing. If you look at the way that a kukri is shaped,
Mm-hmm.
it's the perfect stabbing weapon because instead of it going here, it angles here. So if I'm stabbing something that's not angled, my wrist has to be like this. If I'm stabbing something that's angled out like this, I can almost bring it down almost like I'm shooting a pistol.
Yeah.
Right? So by being able to go into that deep hollow grind, I'm taking weight off the blade. If I was using a flat platen grind, I can't go deeper than that flat platen is. So the hollow grind allows me to go deep right inside the center of where I'm grinding. So I prefer the hollow grind for most things. The edge geometry, if I'm most of my stuff, I do like an Appleseed type finish on it. So that's a really good question. I just wish I could give him a better answer because it kind of depends on what he wants.
Depends on what you're making, yeah.
Yeah.
Come out and play. What's the best steel for a beginner to start out with?
The best steel is probably 1084, which is just a standard high carbon steel. It has about 80+% carbon in it, and it's good because it's less money, and you basically heat it up to about 1475 degrees, give or take, and it doesn't require a soak time. So if you just have a propane forge, you can heat it up to about 1475, maybe 1500 degrees, and then instantly quench it. It doesn't have to sit at that temperature for 10 minutes. So like 1095 has to sit for about 10 minutes at that temperature for it to truly be heat treated properly. So 1084 is probably the best.
Yeah, I would say mainly because of the cost too, because you're just beginning, you're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, and 1084 is awesome steel. It's really good steel.
BMC 350. What are the differences in blade characteristics between one of your skinners and a carver? What characteristics make a carver less desirable, if any, for using as a skinner? And then he goes on, and we answer this. I see the knives available now on your website. If I'm interested in a certain model, should I watch your website or contact you and commission a knife? Great looking knives, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, anyone can contact me. I think all my information is up on the website. So the differences between the skinners and the carvers is the carvers are going to be bigger. They're basically the same blade thickness, the same type of stainless steel, but the carver is bigger. So the carver would be really good. I use it for deboning when I'm doing my skinning as well. If I'm going to debone the animal, the carver is really good, but the carver is going to be a lot bigger. So guys that are backpacking up into Montana, they're going to want to have something like this versus something that's this big because they're drilling holes in toothpicks to try to save weight because of the elevation and equipment that they're carrying.
Yeah.
Could you use the carver as a skinner? Yeah. Yeah, you could. I have a buddy that does. I've used it as a deboner.
Do you have a carver there?
I don't. I don't have a carver here.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
But you can go to his website. He's got them up there.
Yes.
And then if you want to buy one of his knives, he's got them there on the website that are available, and you can email him or DM you on Instagram.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
okay.
Either one. And
again, give your email address. What's your email address?
Oh, jjstablades@gmail.com. And it's on the website. It's on all my social medias as well.
There you go. Ryan Reisner, what were you doing before you started bladesmithing full time? We talked about that. Were you always into pocket knives and blades as you were growing up? That's a good question. What was your very first knife you can remember owning?
I think it was one of those little I think it was made by Saber. It was one of those little just folding lockout knives with the little thumb button on the back.
Yeah.
Something little, and then of course Swiss Army knives for sure.
Have any 110s or anything like that from Buck?
No. Didn't have any of those.
And you said you grew up you were born in California?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Northern California, which is still
Northern California.
Still somewhat free.
Somewhat, yeah.
Let's see. B. Hurst, 87. Can we get a material list like what metals you use and what the grips are made of and the pins? Love those straight edge blades. Looks very clean. And I second the bayonet option. I guess somebody recommended you doing a bayonet.
Well, thank you for the compliment. And for my high carbon steel, I usually use 80 CRV2. And for my stainless steel, a lot of it is AEBL or S35VN. And then most of my handles is all G10, and as with my pins. So these pins right here are actually G10 pins. I just buy different colors so that it matches the sometimes I put a spacer in between the blade and the main handle, and I try to get the pins to match that. So G10 is mainly what I use.
Pacific Northwesterner. I'm an AK guy. We do this segment I told you is called the AK Corner.
Yep.
Jerod. And Jerod may be on our next one where we're talking sniper rifles. So hopefully we can work that out. How about an AK bayonet? Here's the bayonet question. I'd love to see something really unique, maybe even using a surplus bayonet as a base.
Yeah. Here's my thing. And I know it's a little different now because you have companies like Desert Fox Outfitters and Rifle Dynamics that are making higher end AKs. But, up until not too long ago, the AK was, and I love the AK. I've carried the AK all over the world. It's a great weapon. It's one of my favorites, but it's always kind of been the poor man's rifle, right? $400 gets me into an AK, and if I'm going to make a bayonet for an AK, I can't make an $80 bayonet. So the bayonet's probably going to cost closer to what the AK costs.
Not anymore.
So I've never.
Have you seen AKs these days?
I know, but that's what I was saying is like back in the day, there wasn't a big market for it.
Sure.
So like up until recently with the price of some of these mods and stuff on the AKs, I've never really had any interest in doing it. I have several AK-47 bayonets. I guess.
Come on, Jerod, you can improve upon the
I guess
AK
it could
bayonet.
Be done. Especially if the guy,
Come on, Jerod. I think Pacific Northwesterner should commission you to make an AK bayonet.
Here's the only problem, though, is if I make one, I'm probably going to want to keep it for myself and sell it. So,
make two.
I would have to use the handle and everything of an AK of a traditional AK bayonet, but who knows? It's possible. I wouldn't be opposed to doing one.
Yeah, I mean, just a bayonet, AR and AK. I think it'd be cool to see you make a bayonet. I think it'd be sweet.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
I think we guilted him into it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Pew Pew RN asks, what blade steels do you like best? I think you've answered that, but just recap that.
Yeah, I personally like for high carbon. With staying in the moderate high carbon price range and what you get from it, I think 80 CRV2 is one of the best steels for that. And then for the stainless, I think it's one of the most underrated steels out there, but AEBL is really, really good stainless steel. You don't have to go into the higher end stuff to get good performance out of the stainless steel from AEBL.
Jerry Black, what is your go-to EDC knife? What knife is on you right now?
I've got several knives on me right now, but the one that I had on me is this is my Mo stabby.
Mo?
Mo, yeah. It's named after my friend or another friend.
Yeah, we kind of got that. You name them all after your friends.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a lefty knife one day.
Yeah, hey.
Maybe we'll be friends.
A TL stabby.
TL, yeah.
Yeah, so the Mo's a good everyday carry knife.
I like that. Is that a what kind of sheath? Talk about your sheaths, because I don't think we've talked about your sheaths yet.
Yeah, so my sheaths are pretty standard Kydex sheath. The only thing that I kind of do different from most people, or at least from what I've seen, is from day one. I don't know if I can see it from here. You probably cannot because of the lighting, but I do a felt lining on the inside. So the Kydex generally mars up knives and gets it to where you have this big rattle in the Kydex. And so by putting that felt line on the inside, it gives it a really nice snug fit. But it keeps it nice and secure.
How do you adhere that to the Kydex?
What's that?
How do you adhere the felt to the?
I actually buy felt that has a sticky back on it, and what I do is I pancake fold, or I fold over the Kydex with the felt already on it, and then I secure it and clamp it, and it's worked real good. The Blade Tech hardware, American made
for the belt
and
retention.
You can actually take these screws out, turn the whole bracket sideways, so you can run it horizontal or vertical, or left-handed, all that. Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, Leadheads, Dwight Settle with Seal One. Just here to talk to you and tell you a little bit about our product. Seal One CLP Plus is a bio-based, non-toxic product. It comes in a paste, liquid, aerosol, and pre-saturated bore-specific patches called sealskins. They all do the same thing, just different methods of application. The best way to use our product is to start with a clean firearm. There's 2 reasons why I say that. First, you start with the Seal 1 CLP Plus by field stripping your firearm and covering the entire firearm inside and out, bore, barrel, everything with the Seal 1 CLP Plus. You'll see how easy it spreads around. You'll want to wait about 15 to 20 minutes. Then you come back and you want to wipe it all off. So you see how easy it is to put on and remove. And the second reason we say to use a clean firearm is you'll find that it's not clean. We're going to pull out more carbon that's been left behind with whatever product you've been using before. Okay, it takes about 3 cleanings, so I like to say a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot, just normal usage before the Seal 1 CLP Plus has removed whatever product that you were using before and has seasoned the firearm. It's kind of like breaking in a cast iron skillet. And after that first cleaning, you will notice a difference. And with each successive cleaning, you will find that it gets easier and easier to clean. Seal 1 CLP Plus is a dry lubricant and is designed to work as such. You will find that malfunctions are virtually eliminated when used properly, because the majority of all malfunctions are caused to carbon buildup. And with the Seal 1 CLP Plus, the carbon does not build up. Seal 1 CLP Plus is safe on all metals, plastics, composites, polymers, rubber, wood, and leather. Seal 1 CLP Plus is a one-and-done formulation. No other products are required or needed to clean and lubricate and protect your firearm. That's why we say Seal 1 and done. Seal 1 is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for a 25% off discount.
Okay, so that was the EDC. He wasn't asking me, so I've got a buck is my EDC.
Nothing wrong with that.
And it just depends on what day it is, on which buck I have. And I don't even know what they call it. I don't know names of knives.
I'm not super knowledgeable about every model, especially with Buck and Spyderco and all these. There's so many models.
Yeah. Let's see. Did I ask this one? Can we get a material list, like what metals you use and what grips are made? Okay. And Ryan Reisner, what were you doing before you started? I think I asked that one.
I was
homeless.
homeless.
You always into
pocket
jobless. Knives, blade. Okay, yeah, we'll scan down. Favorite blade from video games, movies, books, or any other media? Bailey Muller 80. Mine is the Conan the Barbarian sword that his father had.
I'm gonna have to go with that big ass machete thing that Billy had in Predator, standing on the log when he cut himself across the chest. I think that was just a cool knife.
Was that a kukri? Was that a kukri that he had?
It was like a
big bowie.
It was like a big bowie machete or something, but I always thought that was a cool looking knife.
I got to pull that up.
I thought it was like a two-tone. It looked like the center was like black and the outer side was like gray.
I'm going to pull it up. Let's see. That's the one Arnold had.
Yeah, I think his name was Billy.
Yeah, the Indian dude.
Yeah. The guy that said we fired 200 rounds out of the minigun and didn't hit anything, and they're expert trackers, but they can't see fluorescent green blood all over the leaves that the native chicks off.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, here it is. Picture. Well, share my screen.
Okay.
Because I love pop culture and movies and media, so I like when we can integrate it into the show.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Music. It says influence from the movie Predator. This is on YouTube. Some company they got some big promo.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So this is the one this company has made. Let's see if they got a picture of it. Movie. I know exactly that scene right there. Yeah.
Yep.
See it right there?
Yep.
That's the one you're talking about right there, right?
That's exactly what I was talking about. Yep.
Yeah. I bet we could probably find out exactly who made that for the movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't look exactly like it was close. That's they have.
I mean, it obviously didn't work very well for Billy.
He just kind of gave up though, you know? I didn't like the way that they sent him out. They should have did like a freaking mano a mano with him.
You know, for a guy that was like super quiet, he sure did scream real bad when he got killed.
Yeah, he screamed like a bitch. I didn't like that either.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have screamed. Billy would not have screamed.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, they need to go back and retcon that.
Yeah.
Good question. I like that question. That was
a good one.
Bailey Muller asked that. T. Hayden, what is Jerod's favorite blade profile, and has he ever attempted multi-layer Damascus? And if so, what was the layer count? Thanks again for the great show and looking forward to hearing this episode. T. Hayden.
Okay, that is a good question. A couple good. Yes, I have done multi-layered Damascus. I think the most I've ever done is like 120 layers, so not a whole lot compared to a lot of other people. My favorite blade profile, that's a tough one because they're all named after friends and family. So if I say one, then everybody else is going to be upset with me. But I tend to like.
Hey, you like what you like, okay?
I like a Tonto type blade for the most part.
That's my favorite profile. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with that.
I like Tontos. Oh, Tennessean, what is the proper strength test for knives? What materials are best when deciding the purpose of the blade, such as cutting versus carving or stabbing? I think you kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
Already. What about the proper strength for testing knives?
Once again, it would depend on the size of the knife, the thickness of the knife. I mean, I try to get all those kind of, synonymous with what it's most applicable to, as far as like, if it's a thicker knife, I need to make sure that the heat treat, maybe it soaks a little bit longer. The longer knife, I don't want it as brittle. I may want it to be a little bit less Rockwell hardness so that it has a little bit more flex in it.
Nikolai Abplanap, what do you feel makes your blades stand out against other makers? Also, how long did it take you to get the hang of compound grinds?
The biggest compliment that I get at the very few knife shows that I've gone to, but it seems to be the most repetitive comment, is that my knives look so much different from most of the other knives on the tables. They say, hey, I walk by and it just kind of seems like I'm looking at the same knives at a lot of these tables. Your knives have a little bit different definitive look. And stuff to that. To me, that's like the biggest compliment, because if I can make my knives look different than everybody else's, or at least in some ways, where if I can establish that look with them still being functional and everything, I'm not doing anything magical. I promise you that. I'm just trying to do what kind of fits my style and taste. And I think we're getting into I think there's another question that will kind of get into this question a little bit more. So I'll wait for you to ask me that question. Okay. I think it'll go right into it.
Okay. P-Man 301, what prolific knife makers have inspired your style the most?
Okay, there we go. That's the question I was looking for, because I knew that question was on there. So going back to Mick Strider does some really crazy cool grinds and just beautiful artistic looks to his stuff. And I don't want to be like, I didn't want to make it look like I'm just copying Mick's grinds or anything like that. And I try to stay as away from that as much as I can. But I love the style of grinds that Mick has on his. And Dwayne is the opposite. Dwayne Dwyer, who was with Mick, Dwayne doesn't like differential grinds. Mick likes differential grinds. So it's like it's cool to get both of their opinions and their own style on that type of stuff. And but I definitely got my differential grind stuff from looking at Mick's work.
Okay. And PPRN asks basically the same question: is where do you draw your inspiration for your blade shapes? Maybe a little different type question, but when you got your different shapes, where do you get your inspiration for those?
I just try to I want, like, going back to okay, so like my CS stabby, which is a Tonto, okay? Mine is different from a lot of Tontos because of this basic bolster that I have. It's a grind here, it's a grind here.
Now, when you're saying here, tell our listeners.
Here. What's that?
Go back through when you say here for our audio listeners.
Sorry,
tell them
right here on my cutting edge bevel. This is one grind, and then on my bolster bevel, this is a separate grind, and then up here on my Tonto tip is a separate grind. So there's 3 separate grinds here, okay? But this bolster piece in the center here is thick.
Right.
Okay? So this is part of my initial wound channel if I was to stab somebody. So with it being a little bit thicker, my initial wound channel stays pretty big, especially for a small knife. It gives it a distinct look as well, but this is just, I like blades.
Would you say that that's your trademark?
I could, yeah, I would say that because my MD stabbies are the same concept.
Yeah.
You know, I keep the initial wound channel, trying to keep it as thick as I can without it being to the point to where it won't, penetrate. I mean, a knife is like a gunshot. For the most part, to incapacitate something with a gunshot, you need shot placement and penetration. If you don't have those, you're not going to get basic incapacitation for the most part. A knife is the same thing. The thing that I hate the most that people say is when they pick up a knife and go, oh, this is a good slasher. I don't want my knife to be a good slasher. I want my knife to be a good stabber, because if you slashed me across my chest as hard as you can, I'm probably not going to die. If I stab you in the chest, you're probably going to die. So slashy stuff, I don't really care for. That's why they're called stabbies and not slashies, I guess.
I like that. That's good. Tongue for twisting. What's the longest blade you've ever made?
It was probably like 2 feet long. Not super crazy.
What was it?
It was a World War II Marine Raider buoy that I made for a reconnaissance Marine buddy of mine.
Cool. So you never stepped into the sword making? You haven't made a sword?
No, I have not.
Haven't done a sword yet? Is that something that you want to do? Do you aspire to make a sword? Just to,
no,
for shits and giggles?
I mean, maybe one day when I'm making an AK bayonet, I'll go, shit, I need to make a sword too.
Mustang Perry, what is your opinion on what makes a good fighting knife? Also, what is your personal favorite blade shape and why? Have I asked that one already?
You didn't. So what makes a fighting knife is something that is going to be probably have about at least a good 4-inch, 5-inch cutting edge blade, and a blade that's able to penetrate, and still hold up against, any hard materials and stuff.
And length goes into that as well. There's a certain length and all that you.
Yeah, I mean, anything over 7 inches is probably considered a fighting knife to me. But I mean, really, you don't need a lot of blade to have effective strikes with a knife.
I think I got them all. Some people ask a couple of questions. Yeah, I think I got them all.
Nice. Those are some good questions.
Yeah, and thank you, Leadheads, for taking part. Appreciate all the comments there. And let's pick a winner. Let's pick a winner for the Chevy. Have you got it there? Have you got the one that we're going to be giving away?
I have a couple. What I'll do is, so basically, it's essentially going to be one of these. Okay. But they can. I'll give them the option. If they email whoever wins it, I'll let them know what colors I have for the handle.
Grip? Nice.
Yeah, and then they can pick.
That's awful nice of you to do that.
Yeah.
Have you got talking lead green?
I do. Yeah, I have talking lead green in stock. Yeah.
Very good. All right. So I guess how we should do this is just go through and what was your favorite question?
I kind of liked the movie question about the my favorite movie knife.
I like that one too. That was a good one. That was, let's see. I mean, they were all good questions.
No, there's very good questions.
But I did enjoy taking the trip back to Predator and Billy. That was
yeah.
Hadn't thought about Billy in a while.
Yeah.
Bailey Muller 80, favorite blade from video games, movies, books, or any other form of media. Let's kind of deep dive into that a little bit more too. So,
okay.
Some other iconic movie blades that you can think of, other than Rambo. I mean, that's like one of the most.
Yeah. No. So there's a couple things with me as a young man growing up. I remember. So I set mine up mainly for horizontal carry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My stabbies. And the reason I did that is there's a scene in Red Dawn that always stuck with me,
yes.
right? The original, the only Red Dawn, as far as I'm concerned,
yes.
that stuck with me. And it was when that like T-72 tank was at the gas station and the girl was there on her bike and they took the basket from her and the basket had a grenade in it. And the commander, he drew out this knife horizontal. And I was like, I don't know why that always stuck with me. I just thought it looked so cool because it like came out sideways. It didn't come out like vertically.
Yeah, it didn't take it from the hip. It was.
Yeah, I never really saw the knife. I just thought that technique was super, super cool.
I'm gonna watch Red Dawn tonight and pause it on that and see if I can get it.
Okay, yeah. Let me know because I'll definitely make that knife.
Oh, that would be cool. Red Dawn.
Yeah,
that's a good pull. That's a very obscure pull. I like that.
Especially for
but for big Red 80s? Dawn fans, like most of my listeners are. I even did an AK mag. I'll show it to you when we get off. Remind me. I did a batch of AK mags that had the Red Dawn Wolverine logo on it and Calumet High School class of '84 on there.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Other movies, I mean, again, the Conan sword is the one that always, always lust after the Conan the Barbarian sword, and then of course the Rambo knife. But I mean, there's a lot of movies that have knives. I don't think about much about them as I do the firearms and the guns because I'm always noticing those more, I guess, than I am the knives. But
well, I think Jack Carr's terminal list. His terminal list definitely put the Winkler axe.
If we go axes,
a whole new level.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Jack Carr put that on the map.
Yeah, that was really cool because you saw the axes up on the wall in the background way before he ever pulled them out in different scenes, and you knew something was going to go down with those axes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, if you read his books, or Jack Carr's logo are those axes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's his. Exactly. That's kind of his logo anyway.
That was an awesome addition.
Yeah.
To that. So, yeah, I mean, there's a million movies with a million cool freaking blade scenes, and I think I really like
the. Did you watch the Terminal List?
Yeah.
So I really liked it when the guy that actually killed his wife and kid, he took care of him with that axe and gutted him, and then
you knew that was
pinned
coming.
His guts up on the pole. That was great.
I still think one of the coolest sword fight scenes was in the Highlander when they're fighting, and every time they hit swords, the sparks would go off, for like an early 80s movie fight scene. That I guess they said they put like batteries and battery cables that they connected to the swords so that when they hit, they had real sparks and stuff.
Now,
I thought that was cool.
Again, Hollywood, Hollywood magic. When swords hit, they don't do that in real life, right?
Right. One usually breaks.
Yeah.
You know,
unless somebody was using a fire starter flint on one end and the other guy was.
yeah, precisely.
That's funny. But yeah, man, there's probably tons of movies. So that'd be a good question for you leadheads. What's your favorite movie bladed weapon, I guess? Send that to me. Email me, talkinglead@gmail.com, and I'll read that on the next. I don't know what series I should call this. From the Sheath or, Talking Blades. I don't know. I need a suggestion on what to call our new knife series. But our next knife episode, we'll read those. That'll be fun.
Nice.
So Bailey Muller, email me, talkinglead@gmail.com. You're the winner of the Chivy. And I'll put you in touch with Jerod, and he'll let you know what colors that you can choose from for your handle. That's pretty cool. Appreciate you doing that, Jerod. That's awesome.
Oh, my pleasure.
And then for our Mission First Tactical dump tray, Mission First Tactical makes these awesome Kydex dump trays, Jerod. So, they make holsters and things like that. So with the extra Kydex that they've got, they make these cool dump trays that I use for my gun trays, my gun cleaning trays, gunsmithing trays. So when I'm working on my guns, I use these trays. I'll send you one of those. I'll send you a tray.
That is awesome.
Who do you want to have that one? What was your second favorite question?
I think the question with...
Actually, this will be the Seal 1. We're going to give the Seal 1 away for this.
I think the first question was a really good question. I remember the first one being...
The very first question, that's Bobus 1776. Now, what do you feel is more important in blade geometry, the type of point, the type of grind, or thickness? Is that the one? What grind do you prefer, thinks, and those blades fall into the badass category?
Yeah, I think it is that one. Was that the first one or the second one?
That was the very first question.
Yeah, the first one, because I didn't get a chance to answer it completely just because of the variables in that. But I think that's a good question, because that's definitely something that we have to think about when we're making a knife is, okay, if it's a skinner, I need this. If it's a fighter, I need this. And so it all kind of correlates to whatever your exact build is going to be. So, yeah.
There you go.
Let's give them that one.
So, Bobus, email me, talkinglead@gmail.com, and I'll let you pick whether you want the tray or you want the Seal 1. So, tell me which one of those you want. And then for our third, you'll get whatever Bobus doesn't want, the tray or the Seal 1, which I'm sure he'll choose that Seal 1. That's awesome stuff. I'm going to go outside of our questions, and I'm going to go to Rumble, because I want people to subscribe to us on Rumble now. And I believe I can pull up who has subscribed to us on Rumble somehow. Yes, I can. So I'm going to go to the very first person who started following us on Rumble, our very first Rumble follower. And, one down, make sure these are people who followed. Mustang Perry. You were my very first Rumble follower, and I know that you are a long-time listener to the show, too, so I know that you are definitely a listener to this show. So email me, talkinglead@gmail.com, and whichever prize that Bobus doesn't pick, that's the one that you're going to get. But I'm just going through here and looking. Jerry Black, you were the second one. You were the second follower. Sob Link, SOB Link was the third. Chamber Defense was the fourth. 47 Cav. So I'm just going up through here, and we've only got like 20 followers or 30 followers on Rumble right now. Let me see. 27 followers on Rumble. But you got to start. But I want to get all you listeners over there now. So I want to have thousands of followers on Rumble. And like I said, the more we get, the more I'm going to start posting over there. And they have the ability to do live there too. And I promised you guys that Ton and I are going to do a live, our first Rumble live. We're going to test it out. We're going to try it coming up. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully next week I'll be able to get Ton. I know he's been out doing some competitions and stuff. But there you go. There's our winners. Appreciate everybody taking part. And all your questions there. I know Jerod appreciates it too. Make sure you go and give him a follow on the social medias, like his pages, and more importantly, go and buy his knives. Go to his website. You can see what he's got available there. And then I guess if you've got like a request or something that you want, they can email you.
Yes.
I know you said you don't want to get into custom knife making, but he might be able to do something.
I'm in it, so it's got to have. I usually just don't allow myself to get too deep on the orders as far as like I don't want to be 100
you limit
back ordered.
It's like here's your options, pick these, and then
you
get one of these. Yeah, definitely. And then of course give your website again.
www.stablades.com.
And then on Instagram he's at @STA_Blades. You can follow him on Instagram, and then Facebook is it just STA Blades?
STA Blades.
Anyway, yeah, STA Blades. You guys can find it there. I'll put links in the show notes so you can go and you can link from the show notes as well. Lead heads. But make sure you go and support those that sponsor the show. Mission First Tactical. Use the code LEADHEAD, get 20% off. Seal1.com, use the code LEADHEAD. That's usually our code is LEADHEAD to get the discount codes. 25% off at seal1.com. It's LEADHEAD. Kel-Tec Weapons, it's LEADHEAD. Get 15% off there. Kraken Cases. I was telling you about those cases yesterday, Jerod.
Yeah.
And that's going to be. Oh, by the way, we got to say that we've added a new prize to our big giveaway that we're going to be doing coming up, celebrating the launch of our new logo, and it happens to involve Jerod and STA Blades. So,
yes, sir.
Have you decided which blade you're going to put up for that yet?
I
would like one of those that big stabby thingy that you were showing earlier. I don't know if you can give one of those or not, but those are awesome. I can't remember what it's called. Hold up your knives there, and I'll tell you. Hold them up.
Well, I got about a dozen of them.
Well, hold them up. We like knife porn here. Just hold them up. We want to see them.
The Snatch It.
The Snatch It. Yes, that's it.
Snatch It.
Yes.
Let me see if I can get some done on that. That one takes me a while because it's a 4-edged blade. But I'll see how fast I can get one out.
It's got 4 edges.
Yeah, because it's a dagger.
Oh, I thought it just had 2.
Cutting edge. So I have bevel here, bevel there, and then on the other side.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not tying you into it. What did you have in mind?
I'll see what I can do. I had two different.
One of those fighters would be awesome too.
I've got if I have any fighter. I usually don't have fighters in stock. I've got a couple of MD Stabbies. I've got a couple of Mo's. I've got a couple. I'll see what I can put together.
What's a Mo? Which one's the Mo? Oh yeah, that was the one that you carry most of the time. You showed that one.
The Mo is this blade shape right here.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be an awesome one too. I love that one.
Yeah. The Mo's been pretty popular.
Anyway, once we decide that, Leadhead, we're gonna release all this info. Like I said, I'm going down to Kel-Tec, and we're gonna get all this worked out, and we're gonna have this awesome big prize. One person's gonna win it all. One person will win everything. It's gonna be huge. Wow. It's gonna be huge. You're gonna love it.
Huge.
I promise.
Huge.
Lockdown. Go to Lockdown. This awesome wall you see that it's got all my guns hanging. That's from Lockdown. That's their secure walls, and they are customizable, so they will fit any size wall in your house, in your safe, in your office, wherever you'd like to display your guns. Lockdown. Go to lockdown.com. Leadhead 15% off there. And then, of course, our newest sponsors, be prepared. go to 4patriots.com. Their survival food is tasty. It's nutritious. It's got a 25-year shelf life. So it's going to be around longer probably than you are. But it probably won't last that long because you're going to want to eat it. It's so tasty. So if you're a hiker, a camper, and you want to pack light and have good, tasty, nutritious food, 4patriots.com is where you want to go. Use the code LEADHEAD, and you're going to get 10% off your first purchase. So as they see that you guys are using this, they will probably extend that, maybe make a better discount, and maybe make it where you can use it more than once. But go use it once so they know you're using it, to let them know, and we'll get them back as sponsors. So, 4patriots.com. Jerod, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on. Look forward to getting you on. Hopefully we get you on the AK Corner this month for the Sniper.
Yeah.
The Sniper episode that we're going to do, talking about the SVDs and the different types of comm block sniper rifles.
Nice.
Jerod was a sniper. He did some. I don't think we talked about your piracy, anti-piracy days either, did we?
No.
We'll talk about that on the AK Corner.
That'll be a good conversation for that podcast for sure.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And then Jerod has introduced me to his friend Greg, which hopefully we can work it out and get Greg on the next knife segment that we're going to do. Maybe we'll have a name for it by then too. I like From the Sheath.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
But you got to call him. You got to call him Jerod.
I'll call him Jerod. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Payback.
Yeah.
But until then, leadheads, as always, keep your loved ones close.
And your firearms closer. And your blades at the ready.
And sharp. And clean.
Sharp.
And clean with Seal 1.
That's right.